Chapter 327. Teacher, I was wrong. Teacher, can I really exact vengeance within 10 days? In the one-to-one tutoring room, Lu Chong kneeled before Zhongxian. Until now, he still found the situation hard to believe. Shouldering a debt of bloodshed, he had never told anyone about his burden, and he never expressed it either. In order to prevent himself from revealing it in his dreams or such, he even feigned a mute. He was confident that he had hidden it well. But this Liu Laroche was able to conclude that he was shouldering a huge grudge just by hearing of his past affairs and his cultivation state. His capability was way too fearsome. More importantly, the other party promised him that he would be able to exact his vengeance within 10 days. His enemy was a Tongxian realm cultivator. If it was that simple, he wouldn't have to cultivate as though his life was at stake for the past 2 years. Since I have promised you as such, I have my own ways. However, my method will be excruciating, and whether you can take it or not will be up to your will. Zhongxian looked at the youngster. He was extremely satisfied with this student of his. In order to learn under a teacher to raise his cultivation, he was willing to kneel for 7 days straight. For fear of revealing his secret, he pretended to be mute for 2 years straight. Regardless of which it was a clear sign that he had strong mental fortitude and a resolute will. His talent might not be anything much, but as long as he was groomed properly, his cultivation would definitely soar. It was just a matter of time before he surpassed Mu Xueqing. Otherwise, Zhongxian wouldn't have said that much to him. When accepting students, he valued mental fortitude and will more than anything else. As for talent, with his capability, it didn't mean anything to him. As long as I can have my revenge, I am willing to suffer any kind of pain. Lu Chong clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were determined. All right. Placing his hands behind his back, Zhongxian stared at him with deep eyes. There's a special occupation which none is willing to come in contact with or bring up. Have you heard of poison masters? I have. Lu Chong nodded. He had wanted to learn the art of a poison master back then, but he didn't have the connections to look for the poison hall. Teacher, could it be that? Lu Chong hesitated for a moment before asking doubtfully. Wasn't poison master a job which was looked down on by the others? Could it be that Liu Laroche was a poison master? Or did he want to impart to him the skills of a poison master? I am not a poison master, and I won't teach you that either. Seeing through his thoughts, Zhongxian shook his head. I have a way that can raise your strength swiftly, but it will require the use of poison. Even though it won't be detrimental to your future cultivation, you will have to suffer excruciating pain. Furthermore, if you fail to endure it, you will die. What he was referring to was the method to cultivate the poison body which he saw in the books in the poison hall. Once one managed to successfully cultivate the poison body, not only would one be immune to the toxicity of poisons, one's strength, spirit, and agility would be enhanced significantly as well, granting one significantly higher fighting prowess. Other than the Heaven's Path divine art, the only way to raise his strength immensely within the limited time he had was this. Usually, when poison masters cultivated the poison body, they would consume poison and this would affect their longevity. Back then, the reason why Jiyu Mu sustained a trauma was due to this as well. However, after the compilation of the Library of Heaven's Path, the detriments to the cultivation method had been reduced to the bare minimum. Even so, without the support of Heaven's Path Shinchi, it wouldn't be easy to cultivate it. One would have to suffer a great pain. Since Lu Chong possessed strong mental fortitude, it was worth a try. Perhaps, he might produce outstanding results. Regardless of how much pain it puts me in, as long as it allows me to exact vengeance, I am willing to give it a try. Lu Chong's eyes were filled with resolve. He only had this one opportunity. While he was cultivating, his enemy wasn't resting either. Given his talent of only a single rise in a cultivation realm every 2 years, it was impossible for him to ever surpass the other party. Since this Liu Laroche said that he could give him the strength to exact vengeance within 10 days, he was willing to believe in the party. He had seen with his own eyes how his fellow peers grew visibly stronger under his guidance. No matter how foolish he could be, it was obvious that he was a person of great means. Seeing the resolve in the other party's eyes, Zhongxian nodded in satisfaction. Then, with a deep and slightly cold voice, He warned, "The cultivation technique that I am about to impart to you must not be leaked to anyone. Otherwise, even if I don't do anything, you will suffer a recoil from your zhenqi and you will die tragically." "Yes." Lu Chong nodded. Raising a hand, he swore, "I, Lu Chong, swear to never impart the cultivation technique and secret arts Liu Laroche impart me to anyone else, and if I were to break my vow, may my soul dissipate." UN. Zhong Xian tapped on an acupoint on Lu Chong's body and discreetly sent a surge of zhenqi into his body. The cultivation technique he was imparting to the other party was too powerful. If it were to leak out, it would bring trouble to him, as well as the world. Even though the other party had sworn to it, he himself needed to prepare a countermeasure as well. After his study and research of poison, his Heaven's Path zhenqi was capable of turning into a tonic or a poison with a single thought. If the other party were to seal his mouth tightly, this surge of zhenqi would clear away all of the obstacles lying in his meridians and raise his cultivation. However, if he were to abuse his strength, this surge of zhenqi could also have him killed in an instant. Cultivating the poison body requires the complementation of poison. I don't have such medicinal herbs on me at the moment, so I will impart the cultivation technique to you tomorrow. However, I will teach you another technique that can strengthen your physical body. You should learn it well, as a strong physical body is required to withstand the lethal poison. After making preparations, Zhong Xian looked him in the eye and said, "I will only recite the cultivation formula once. How much you remember and understand will depend on your ability. Don't let me down." "I won't let teacher down." Lu Chong nodded. "Very well, this physical body enhancement technique." Zhong Xian started explaining. The technique he was referring to was the Heaven's Path Golden Body. Of course, he imparted the simplified version which he imparted to Zhao Ya and the others as well. Cultivating the poison body required one's body to come into contact with lethal poison. If one's body wasn't strong enough, it would be hard for one to hold on. Even though this Heaven's Path Golden Body was inferior to the one which Zhong Xian cultivated, it was still a product of the library of Heaven's Path and it mustn't be underestimated. As long as one cultivated it seriously, it wouldn't be a problem for one to grow stronger swiftly. And this is what we call a complete body. Soon, Zhong Xian finished reciting the cultivation formula. "Teacher, thank you for your bestowment." After hearing the formula of the technique, Lu Chong's body trembled and his face flushed in agitation. Having studied in Tianwu Academy for 2 years, he had seen quite a few cultivation techniques and he also knew of a few physical body enhancement technique formulas. Compared to the one which Liu Laroche had just taught him, they were all trash. At the very least, this technique was at phantom pinnacle or above. If Liu Laroche were to auction it, it would definitely fetch an astronomical sum. Even the Tianwu royal family would go in a frenzy for it. It was such a valuable technique, yet Liu Laroche taught it to him without asking for anything. This was a huge debt which he would never be able to repay. "You should start cultivating." Ignoring the other party's agitation, Zhong Xian waved his hands casually. "Yes." Knowing that teacher didn't like to waste his words, Lu Chong hurriedly sat on the floor and started cultivating. Following the Heaven's Path Golden Body's formula, Lu Chong drove his zhenqi on a specific path in his body, and after a moment, he felt an extremely comfortable and relaxing sensation gush through his body. All of the traumas he had sustained before instantaneously disappeared. Incredible! After an unknown period of time, a cracking sound echoed in the muscles throughout Lu Chong's body, and his strength rose significantly. "Who?" Lu Chong opened his eyes. At this moment, he felt as though he harnessed boundless strength in his body. "UN, not bad. You managed to achieve minor accomplishment within 2 hours. This shows that you have a good foundation." Zhong Xian nodded his head in satisfaction. For revenge, the other party was willing to take all kind of pain, so he must have trained his body for this goal as well. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for him to reach minor accomplishment for the simplified version of Heaven's Path Golden Body within 2 hours. "You can go out now. Your other classmates are probably anxious for you." After he was done with the cultivating the physical body enhancement technique, Zhong Xian pushed the door and walked out. It had been more than 2 hours since the duo entered, and the students outside were probably anxious from waiting already. In the classroom, Liu Laroche said that he would grant Lu Chong the strength to defeat a Tongxian realm expert within 10 days. Do you think that it is possible? Until now, that student was unable to believe it. I don't know either. However, judging from how Liu Laroche was able to help us achieve breakthroughs in our cultivation just by giving us a few casual pointers, I doubt that his discernment is inferior to that of a master teacher. I have heard the lessons of a master teacher before, and it is only slightly deeper than the lecture of our previous teacher. Compared to Liu Laroche, I think that their lessons are lacking. Indeed, is he really just an ordinary teacher? Discussions sounded in the classroom. Initially, they harbored deep hostility toward this teacher. However, the moment he started guiding them, everyone immediately realized that they had met with a good teacher and fell to his side. At Tongxian realm, one's strength exceeds 100 ding, granting them the might to easily split open a tree. Lu Chong is currently only at Dingli realm primary stage, and that is 2 whole realms away from Tongxian realm. How can he possibly reach Tongxian realm in 10 days under such conditions? Mu Xueqing shook her head. She was at Pishua realm, and she knew how difficult it was to raise one's cultivation. It would already be incredible if Lu Chong could reach Dingli realm intermediate stage within 10 days. To advance 2 whole realms and match a Tongxian realm expert. To her, it sounded no different from boasting. Indeed. Meng Dao nodded as well. Back then, it took him an entire year of effort to advance from Dingli realm primary stage to advanced stage. To reach Tongxian realm within 10 days, he didn't think that it was possible either. Jia. Just when they were discussing, the door suddenly opened and Liu Laroche and Lu Chong walked out. At this moment, Lu Chong looked spirited, and his eyes were filled with energy. Explosive power could be felt from his body, and it felt like the mighty waves in the ocean, exerting great pressure on the one looking at him. Dingli realm pinnacle? Upon sensing his aura, Mu Xueqing and Meng Dao fell silent. Their eyes grew so wide that they were about to pop out from their eyes. How long had it been since he entered the room with Liu Laroche? To advance from Dingli realm primary stage to pinnacle in 2 hours. The duo felt like spurting blood. Compared to him, their cultivation speed was no different from a snail's. It took them several months before they could see a slight progress in their cultivation, yet Liu Laroche simply brought Lu Chong in for just a while and he had already broken through 2 smaller realms. Did it have to be that exaggerated? Furthermore, they were oblivious to the fact that Lu Chong's simplified Heaven's Path Golden Path had granted him the strength exceeding that of an ordinary Dingli realm pinnacle. Adding his physical strength along with that of his zhenqi, he possessed an astounding might of 5 ding. An ordinary Dingli realm pinnacle could only wield a might of 4 ding. This is too incredible. Senior, I think it is best that you admit your mistake. It is impossible to find such an incredible teacher anywhere else. Suppressing his shock, Meng Dao hurriedly sent a telepathic message to Meng Dao. Halfway through his words, Meng Dao realized that the other party wasn't responding. Thinking that his senior's proud nature was acting up again, he hurriedly turned around to persuade her, but the unexpected sight before him nearly caused him to faint. Putong. The incomparably arrogant little demoness Mu Xueqing, who would never admit her mistakes, was already kneeling before Liu Laroche with an earnest expression on her face. Teacher, I am in the wrong, please forgive me. I will do whatever you ask of me in the future. I won't disobey you ever again. Even if that genius master teacher Zhong Xian were to come over, I will disregard him as though he is just mere air. Zhong Xian. To be able to raise our cultivation with just a few casual pointers, even master teachers might not possess such capability. Hearing the group's discussion, Meng Dao couldn't help but add in. Indeed. I've had the honor of meeting with several master teachers, and I even once obtained Pavilion Master Jiang's tutelage jade token and listened to 2 hours of his lecture. His lecture was impressive, but he was still lacking compared to Liu Laoche's precise guidance. Mu Xueqing nodded. Due to her family background, she had come into contact with numerous master teachers from young, to the point that she had even listened to Pavilion Master Jiang's lesson before. However, his guidance wasn't as spot-on as Liu Laoche's, the latter pointing straight to the crux of the problem and allowing one to improve immensely once they corrected it. Even Pavilion Master Jiang's lesson is lacking compared to his. Does this mean that our Liu Laosh's teaching ability is already above that of a 2-star master teacher? Meng Dao asked in disbelief. Not only Pavilion Master Jiang, I think that the genius master teacher Zhongxian also pales in comparison to him. He only managed to cause a huge uproar in the master teacher examination due to his talent. The cultivation of his students aren't anything much. Based on what I've heard, they are all at Dingli realm, and even the strongest of them was only at Pishua realm. Mu Xueqing continued. If he was really as proficient in teaching as Liu Laoshe, how could his students be so weak? With a new idol, Mu Xueqing was no longer blinded in her reverence for the genius master teacher. Recalling the news she had heard, she made a comparison between Zhongxian and Liu Laoshe, and arrived at this conclusion. Master teacher Zhongxian was a talented individual, but in terms of teaching, it was impossible for him to match up to Liu Laoshe. Otherwise, how could his direct disciples be so weak? One had to know that Liu Laoshe had claimed that he could make Lu Chong defeat a Tongxian realm expert within 10 days. Regardless of how short the duration when master teacher Zhongxian's students had been with him, it was definitely more than 10 days. It was clear who was the superior one. Who did you say was mediocre in teaching? I dare you to repeat your word. Mu Xueqing had just finished speaking her piece when a cold voice sounded out behind them. Turning around, they saw an incredibly beautiful lady who was around Mu Xueqing's age standing in the distance. Her eyebrows were knitted tightly together in displeasure. Upon seeing this lady, Mu Xueqing, who always prided herself on her looks, couldn't help but gasp in admiration. However, envy soon welled up in her. What business of yours is it whomever I speak of? Mu Xueqing harumphed coldly. She was the little demoness who feared nothing at all. She might have become an obedient lamb facing Liu Laoshe's authority, but if a random stranger thought that she could climb over her head, then she must be dreaming. Did you just say that master teacher Zhongxian is mediocre in teaching, and his students are weak? The beautiful lady opposite to her stared at her with eyes burning with fury. Why? Have I said anything wrong? There is nothing to be said about Zhongshe's talents, but the students he taught are truly ordinary. Just by looking at their cultivation, one can tell that his teaching abilities are subpar. Mu Xueqing was a person who favored the carrot over the stick. Even though she revered Zhongshe a lot, she couldn't help but retaliate verbally upon sensing the threat the lady's voice. Since you said so, let's not waste any words. Do you dare to duel with me? The lady's face steeled and she gritted her silver teeth. Duel with you? Mu Xueqing was taken aback. She must be sick. She only casually said that master teacher Zhongxian's lessons couldn't compare up to Liu Laoshe's, yet this lass was acting as though she had killed her entire family. What in the world was she up to? However, as the little demoness and one of the top students in the entire Tianwu kingdom, she couldn't back down a duel. Let's fight then. Do you think that I will be scared of you? Harumphing coldly, Mu Xueqing flung her sleeve. Senior. Seeing the little demoness flying to a rage, Meng Dao and the others were shocked. They hurriedly tried to stop her. On the other hand, another lady beside the beautiful lady looked a little worried as well. Zhao Ya, Liu Shi told us not to cause any trouble. The female said feebly, worried that they would get into trouble. Wang Ying, they have already insulted our teacher, are we to tolerate it? A young man stepped forward. With a flick of his wrist, he whipped out the spear behind his back, and the joints of the spear started fixing itself together. Indeed, we can't tolerate it. They have insulted our teacher and us. So what if this is Tianwu Academy? A plump-faced fatty stepped forward. They were Zhao Ya, Zheng Yang, and the others who came to Tianwu Academy for a leisurely stroll. They had been walking around Tianwu Academy, and the grandeur of the top academy of the 13 surrounding kingdoms had indeed left them stunned. After walking for an entire afternoon, just as they were about to return, they heard someone insult Zhong Laoshe. How could they watch by the side as the respected figure in their hearts was being sullied? They could tolerate being insulted themselves, but they couldn't allow anyone to insult Zhong Laoshe. In their hearts, Zhong Laoshe was an existence equivalent to a god. What Liu Laoshe and Jiang Chen, all of those meant nothing to them at all. Seeing Zheng Yang and Yuan Dao fervently supporting Zhao Ya's decision, Wang Ying hesitated for a moment before nodding her head, alright. Zhong Xian's 5 students always had a fearless personality. Otherwise, they wouldn't have dared to challenge Lu Zun publicly during the teacher evaluation. Even though they were at Tianwu Academy, and they had no connections or backing here, they couldn't forgive the fact that someone had dared to insult their teacher. There is a sparring ring right in front. Whoever loses must apologize to the other party. Zhao Yue's pitch-black hair flew in the air, and in an instant, she felt as though a pure and valiant goddess. Do you dare to accept the challenge? What is there to fear? Rather, I'm afraid that you will go back on your words when you lose. Mu Xueqing didn't back down at all. Then cut the crap, let's go. Zhao Yue couldn't be bothered to argue with the other party, and she began to walk toward the dueling ring. As an academy for cultivators, Tianwu Academy had average-sized sparring rings throughout the entire campus to allow students to spar with one another and raise their cultivation. What's wrong? It seems like little demoness Mu Xueqing is sparring with someone. Sparring with someone? Who would be so daring as to fight with her? Zhao Wuxing? Or is it Liu Chongyang? It isn't them. I haven't seen the other party before either. It is an extremely beautiful lady, so beautiful that I couldn't believe my eyes. The battle between 2 beauties. I have to take a look then. Sensing the strong smell of gunpowder between the duo, the other students, who were walking leisurely around the campus, were immediately roused and innumerable people gathered around the sparring ring. Mu Xueqing was both beautiful and strong, and she had always been in the center of attention in the academy. Not to mention, the lady she was facing was even more beautiful than her. In an instant, the attention of the entire academy was focused on this duel. Large circles of crowd gathered around the sparring ring. She's indeed beautiful. Why haven't I met her before? She must be new. Otherwise, given her beauty, it is impossible for me to not have heard of her. Upon seeing Zhao Yue, the eyes of the student population lit up. After triggering her pure yin body, her disposition and appearance became refined, and she stood out from the typical ladies. In an instant, she attracted everyone's gazes, and the eyes of many male students were glowing. Damn it! Seeing those male students directing furious glares at her, Mu Xueqing's face steeled, and she was about to explode with fury. In the past, regardless of where she went, she was the center of attention. But at this moment, her spotlight was being stolen by some other lady. How could she take this lying down? If I don't leave your smash your head until you even forget your own name, I'll forsake my surname. Clenching her jaws forcefully, Mu Xueqing clenched her fists tightly. Chapter 329, Dual Agreement. Zhao Yue. Even though there isn't much to be said about the other party's character, she isn't weak. You must be careful. Zheng Yang stepped forward and told Zhao Yue with a hushed voice. Yuan, don't worry. Zhao Yue responded. After Zhong Laosha's guidance yesterday, she opened up another 10 acupoints. Even though the lady before her wasn't weak, she could only be considered to be on par with her. When it comes down to it, it was hard to say who would lose. Who? Leaping forward, Zhao Yue landed lightly on the sparring ring. Staring at Mu Xueqing with her black beady eyes, she gestured with her hands and said, "Let's begin." Refusing to back down, Mu Xueqing leaped onto the sparring ring as well. She unleashed her might, which had just risen from her breakthrough just a moment ago, and strength gushed through her as though a flowing river. It's beginning. The battle between the 2 beauties. Seeing the 2 beauties facing each other on the sparring ring, the crowd immediately fell silent, fearful that they would interrupt their concentration. I will make you apologize. With a clear thud, Zhao Yue pushed against the floor and charged forth. At the same time, a howling aura which bore some reminiscence to the gleam of a sword shrouded her arms. The one to apologize will be you. Refusing to yield, Mu Xueqing also charged forward. Peng 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 peng. Soon, the duo had already traded blows several times. As Pishua realm cultivators, the might of their blows caused a violent sonic boom to burst in the air. Incredible. Where did this lady come from? Despite her young age, she is actually able to match Mu Xueqing. Amidst the crowd, a young man looked at the battle with a perplexed expression. It was the student who was ranked first in the student tournament, Zhao Wuxing. I have no idea as well. It seemed as though she suddenly appeared today. Beside him, another person looked at the stage with a doubtful expression as well. If Mu Xueqing saw this person, she would definitely recognize him as the one who was placed second in the student tournament, Liu Chongyang. Despite being the two most famous students in the academy, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Chongyang couldn't hold back their curiosity to spectate the battle. Who do you think will win? After looking for a moment longer, Liu Chongyang chuckled. In just a few days, Mu Xueqing's cultivation has improved, and the restraint in her movements has also disappeared, causing her fighting prowess to soar greatly. Even though the lady she is facing is using inferior battle techniques, her movements were forceful. Furthermore, there seems to be some kind of frosty aura to her moves, making it difficult for one to face it head-on. I can't really say for sure who will win. After hesitating for a moment, Zhao Wuxing said. As the number one student in the entire academy, his eye for such matters was astonishing. However, regardless of whether it was their cultivation or their means, the two ladies on the sparring ring seemed to be on the same level. He couldn't say for sure who would win either. Liu Chongyang nodded in agreement. Then, he suddenly frowned. That lady who abruptly appeared has a strong foundation, but why are her battle techniques so weak? All of the moves she has used were at intermediate tier mortal or so. If her battle techniques were slightly more advanced, she might have won already. Indeed. Zhao Wuxing was also perplexed by the sight. These two beautiful ladies had both reached Pishua realm. As long as they wished, they could easily access the high-tier or even pinnacle mortal battle techniques. To still be using intermediate-tier mortal at her cultivation realm, that was indeed a little lacking. If not for the frosty aura in her body limiting the other party's movements, rendering Mu Xueqing unable to gain on her, she would have already lost. This isn't good. Zheng Yang and the others could also see the problem. Zhao Huai's pure yin body granted her a huge advantage against cultivators of the same cultivation realm. However, as the battle techniques she knew were still limited to the level of Tianqian Kingdom, there was still a huge distance between both parties. More importantly, it had only been 2 months since Zhao Huai advanced from Fighter 1 Denjushi realm to Pishua realm. The rapid rise in her cultivation caused her to lack actual combat experience. On the other hand, as the little demoness who had caused innumerable storms in Tianwu Academy, Mu Xueqing had plenty of battle experience. Lacking battle techniques and battle experience. If not for her overwhelmingly powerful physical constitution and her powerful zhenqi, she would have already lost by now. Don't panic. Even though Zhao Huai is lacking in practical battle experience, it isn't that easy for the other party to triumph over her, Liu Yang said. Back then, Zhao Huai's physical constitution could even suppress Lu Xun Laroche. No matter how powerful this lady was, could she be stronger than Lu Xun? Don't worry. Once she gets used to the tempo of the battle, it will just be a matter of time before she defeats the other party. Zhao Huai's disadvantage was due to her lacking battle experience. As the battle continued on, Zhao Huai would slowly get used to the flow of the fight, and by then, it wouldn't be difficult for her to defeat the other party. Damn it. Since the crowd below was able to realize this, naturally Mu Xueqing could notice it as well, and her face steeled. Even though she wasn't the strongest female in her age group in Tianwu Kingdom, she wasn't too far from it. She thought that it should have been easy for her to teach a lass younger than her a lesson, but never in her dreams did she expect for the other party to be this formidable. When did such an incredible freshman appear in Tianwu Academy? If this continues to drag on, given how condensed her zhenqi is, I will surely lose. I have no choice but to use that technique. Mu Xueqing gritted her teeth, and a ferocious glint appeared in her eyes. Even though the other party was in a disadvantageous position at first, as time went by, she found the tables being slowly turned on her. In the end, her cultivation was forcefully pulled by pills, so her zhenqi was still a little thin. Harumphing lightly, Mu Xueqing frowned. Her aura suddenly surged, and she released a forceful punch. It's Apothecary Mu's Fallen Flower Fist. A grim look appeared on Zhao Wuxing's face. Fallen Flower Fist. Liu Chongyang turned to Zhao Wuxing and asked. Indeed. It's a high-tier phantom battle technique. It's said that when Apothecary Mu reached Zongsha realm, in remembrance of his dead wife, he created this technique. There is a total of 3 moves to this technique, and every single one has overwhelming strength. Even Mo Hongyi was filled with praises for it. Zhao Wuxing stared at the lady on stage and commented, to think that Apothecary Mu would pass this technique on to his daughter and that she would have already mastered the first move. High-tier phantom battle technique? Techniques of such level are rare even in the capital. The other lady Mu Xueqing is facing is in trouble. Amazed, Liu Chongyang nodded his head. Even in Tianwu Kingdom, a high-tier phantom battle technique was considered to be top-notch. On top of that, the other lady was lacking in good battle techniques, making it difficult for her to withstand this move. As they expected, facing the savage pressure from the other party, Zhao Huai's face warped in shock. I have to go all out. Gritting her silver teeth, she knew that she would definitely fall in defeat if she were to continue executing normal moves. Thus, with a bellow, she pumped her zhenqi furiously through her veins. She was putting her all into this single move. Peng! The fallen flower fist met her palm. Deng 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 deng. The duo's faces reddened, and they retreated 7 to 8 steps consecutively before fresh blood spurted from their mouths. It was a draw. Zhao Huai, Senior, Zheng Yang and Meng Dao dashed up to the stage. Seems like I have underestimated you. It is a draw today, but do you dare to fight against me 3 days from now? Flinging her arms, Mu Xueqing pushed Meng Dao and the others aside before glaring at Zhao Huai coldly. So be it. If you lose at that time, you have to apologize. Zhao Huai stared back at her as well. Apologize? I only said that Zhongshe isn't good at teaching. What business of it is yours? At this, Mu Xueqing suddenly realized something and she froze. It can't be that. You all are Zhongshe's students. That's right. He is our teacher. Your action of insulting him is equivalent to insulting all of us. Zhao Huai replied. I see. Finally understanding the reason why the other party was so furious as to challenge her to a duel, Mu Xueqing shook her head. I am also filled with respect for Zhongshe, just that. I am being objective here. In terms of teaching, I can guarantee that our Liu Laroche is definitely superior to your Zhongshe. Liu Laroche? I've never heard of him. Zhao Huai shook her head. Then, with a proud look, she declared, our Zhong Laroche is definitely the best in teaching. No one is able to match up to him. You. Mu Xueqing gritted her teeth. Since none of us is willing to concede, then let our fists do the talking. Let's meet again 3 days from now on, and whoever loses has to admit that their teacher is inferior to the other party's teacher. Do you dare to accept my challenge? Why wouldn't I dare to accept your challenge? Zhao Huai nodded. Fine, it's a deal then. Let's go. Seeing that the other party had agreed to it, Mu Xueqing flung her arms, turned around and left. It hadn't been long since she came into contact with Liu Laroche, but she felt grateful to the other party for solving the trauma in the body and raising her cultivation. Given that a student of Zhongshe was challenging his prestige, she felt a need to guard his honor. She wanted to let people know that even though Liu Laroche wasn't a master teacher, he was in no way inferior to a master teacher. Let's go. Zhao Huai also left with Wang Ying and the others. These few people are Zhongshe's students. This is a huge affair. I've heard of Zhongshe. He's the genius who broke all of genius Mo Hongyi's records, taking over his position as the #1 genius of Tianwu Kingdom. No wonder that lady was so incredible. She is his student. Upon learning that Zhao Huai and the others were Zhongshe's students, the crowd below broke into a commotion. Those students who harbored ideas on Zhao Huai immediately vanquished all of their thoughts. Master teacher Zhongxian was a rising figure in the city, and many influential powers were eager to build a connection with him. Laying hands on his students was no different than suicide. Right, isn't Mu Xueqing's teacher by Fan Laroche? Who is Liu Laroche? You still don't know about it. Bai Fang Laroche has already left the academy, and this Liu Laroche is a teacher who was just recruited today. Just recruited today? That's right. I was in charge of attending to the interviewees, so I personally saw the scene back then. That Liu Laroche is indeed a capable teacher. The student recounted the events during the public recruitment. With a single word, he fixed a student's aversion to studying, and with a beating, he fixed a student's violent tendencies. You must be joking. There's actually such a person in the world. After hearing those words, the crowd was dumbfounded. They couldn't help but doubt that the other party was lying to them. It's true. The student said indignantly. You all know Mu Xueqing's personality as well. If it's not true, how could she be willing to fight with another person for him when she has only come into contact with him for such a short period of time? Now that you speak of it, I suddenly thought of something. When I met the students in their class this morning, their cultivation didn't seem to be that high yet. How in the world was all of their cultivation raised in just a few hours? Could this really be due to Liu Laoche's guidance? For him to be so formidable, who in the world is this Liu Laoche? The more the crowd discussed, the more curious they were about Mu Xueqing's new teacher. Chu. After leaving the classroom, just as Zhong Xian was walking on a pavement, he suddenly sneezed. Perplexed, he rubbed his nose. What's wrong? Did I catch a cold? Chapter 330, Physician Guild. Not long after Mu Xueqing and the others stepped out of the classroom, Zhong Xian left as well. To raise Lu Chong's cultivation in the shortest time possible, he had to purchase sufficient medicinal herbs to concoct the poison. It was impossible for him to obtain these herbs just by waiting in the academy. There are only two sources where one can obtain medicinal herbs: the Herb Kings and the Physician Guild. Zhong Xian contemplated as he proceeded forward. Herb Kings referred to wholesaler of medicinal herbs, and the Great Herb King of the Red Lotus City was the largest wholesaler in the 13 surrounding kingdoms. If Tianwu Royal City has a Herb King, Bai Chan and the others wouldn't have to go through so much effort to travel to Red Lotus City to purchase medicine. I better head to the Physician Guild. Given how Bai Chan and the other physicians traveled all the way to Red Lotus City to purchase medicinal herbs, it was clear that there was no Herb King in Tianwu Royal City. Even if there was, it was unlikely for him to have a wide variety of herbs. Since that was the case, Zhong Xian decided to head for the Physician Guild straight. The Apothecary Guild and the Physician Guild both expended huge quantities of herbs on a daily basis. The pills the former forged were mostly related to raising one's cultivation, and thus, the medicinal herbs they possessed were mostly tonics and spirit medicinal herbs. On the other hand, the latter concocted medicine with the purpose of saving and treating others, and poisonous herbs frequently appeared in their prescriptions. Therefore, it was more likely that latter would possess the poisonous herbs that Zhong Xian was looking for. After asking around in the academy, Zhong Xian soon found out where the Physician Guild was located. It wasn't too far from Tianwu Academy, and he arrived at its doorstep within an hour. The Physician Guild wasn't as grand as the Master Teacher Pavilion, but still, it was larger and more imposing than the Painter Guild. Upon walking into the lounge, Zhong Xian immediately saw a group of people lining up neatly within. There were apprentices seated at the front diagnosing the patient. It was quite similar to the hospitals in his previous life. Walking around the crowd, Zhong Xian walked up to the reception and a young lady in her 20s walked up to welcome him with a sweet smile. May I know what Gongzi hopes to inquire? I wish to buy some medicinal herbs, Zhong Xian said. You wish to buy some herbs? The lady hesitated for a moment before asking politely, can you show me your prescription? Prescription? He was just here to buy medicinal herbs, so how could he possibly have something like that? You can only buy medicinal herbs with a prescription. Seeing the confused look on the other party's face, the lady frowned. Where can I obtain a prescription? Zhong Xian asked. Physicians and apprentices have the right to issue a prescription. The lady looked at Zhong Xian with a bizarre gaze. However, apprentices can only issue prescriptions consisting of low-tier medicinal herbs. If you wish to purchase high-tier medicinal herbs, you will have to look for a physician. To dare to come up here to buy medicinal herbs when you don't even know where to get a prescription from. It is fortunate for you that my temper is good, otherwise you would have already been kicked out as a troublemaker. Oh, the medicinal herbs I want to buy can't be considered as high tier, but they are still quite rare. I will recite them for you, so can you tell me whether I should look for an apprentice or a physician to issue a prescription? Seeing the long queue before the apprentices and a longer one before the physicians, Zhong Xian decided to clarify everything properly before deciding on a course of action. He didn't want to leave in disappointment after lining up for several hours at the apprentice queue only to realize that the other party was unable to issue the prescription. "All right." The lady nodded. "I want to buy white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, wolf venom grass." After pondering for a moment, Zhongxian listed out over a dozen medicinal herbs. Before he could finish his words, the lady's eyes widened into large circles. Alarmed, she took a step back and knocked a bronze gong. "Guards, someone is causing trouble." "Zhongxian. Hualala." A few armored guards rushed over. "Ye Ru Xiajie, what's wrong?" The guard leader was a tall and bulky man. With a physique as though a steel tower, his presence exerted a huge pressure on those around him. "Tongxian realm expert. That man is causing trouble." Receptionist Ye Ru pointed. Cough cough. Zhongxian didn't expect that he would be taken for a troublemaker when he only intended to purchase medicine. Shaking his head, he said, "I am a teacher of Tianwu Academy. I am really here to buy medicinal herb." After which, he flashed an emblem indicating his identity as a teacher. He didn't want to be thrown out from the guild despite having only entered a moment ago. "Oh, so it's Liu Laroche. Pardon our disrespect." After taking a glance at the emblem, the guard leader clasped his fist. He then turned to Ye Ru and asked doubtfully, "What is going on?" Tianwu Academy was known as the sacred land for cultivators, and the teachers possessed immense prestige in the capital. No one dared to look down on them. Since the other party was a teacher, it was unlikely that he would cause trouble here given his esteemed standing. Despite not having a prescription, he said that he wanted to buy prohibited medicinal herbs like white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, and wolf venom grass. If this isn't causing trouble, what else is? Not expecting that this ignorant fellow to be a teacher of Tianwu Academy, Ye Ru was taken aback for a moment. However, she soon recovered and explained the situation. Buying prohibited medicinal herbs? After hearing the reason, the guard leader turned to Zhongxian, Liu Laroche. "Medicinal herbs like the wolf venom grass possess lethal poison, and thus, the guild deems them as prohibited herbs. Even with a prescription, we aren't allowed to sell them to you. Unless a physician vouches for you personally, otherwise it will be impossible to purchase those herbs." "I'm unable to purchase those herbs even with a prescription." "Yes. These prohibited medicinal herbs possess lethal poison, and in order to prevent people from abusing these medicinal herbs to conduct vile deeds, the guild decided to impose strict rules on their distribution. I seek your understanding on this matter." The guard clasped his fist and explained respectfully. If not for the fact that the other party was a teacher of Tianwu Academy, he would have thought that he was here to cause trouble as well. Despite knowing nothing at all, to head to the guild to purchase prohibited medicinal herbs. He sure was brazen. "Oh." Zhongxian nodded. He could understand the rationale behind their actions. In his previous life, some of the more potent medicine, such as sleeping pills, weren't available to the general public even with a prescription. They were simply trying to prevent widespread use of these lethal medicinal herbs, which could potentially cause unrest in the city. Since Liu Laroche understands this matter, I have to ask you to leave and not make things difficult for us. Seeing that the other party comprehended their plight, the guard leader continued. However, before he could finish his words, the young man before him knitted his eyebrows tightly together. With a helpless expression, the other party shook his head. "Seems like I have to try taking the physician examination then. Sigh, to think that even purchasing medicinal herbs would be such a hassle." Taking the physician examination? Purchasing medicinal herbs would be such a hassle? Upon hearing those words, Ye Ru and the guards nearly keeled over. Physician was one of the higher-ranked occupations of the upper 9 paths. As such, the difficulty of the examination was extraordinary. Despite not even being an apprentice, not to mention how you didn't even know that a prescription was required to purchase medicinal herbs, how could you boast so arrogantly that you are going to take the physician examination? Furthermore, for you to do so just to purchase medicinal herbs. Brother, will you die if you act a little humbler? Ye Ru's complexion immediately turned awful. She had seen many braggarts before, but she had never seen one who was capable of bragging to the stars. Even if you don't know that a prescription is required to purchase medicinal herbs, you should at least know that taking the physician examination requires an in-depth knowledge of medicinal herb. To not even know that the white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, and wolf venom grass are prohibited medicinal herbs. And you still wish to take the physician examination? You must be joking. Liu Laroche, the physician examination isn't as easy as you think. The guard leader was infuriated by how lightly the other party was taking the occupation, but in consideration of his identity as a teacher of Qianwu Academy, he suppressed his anger and tried to explain the matter to him. Yuan, I understand. How can becoming a member of an occupation of the upper 9 paths be easy? Zhong Xian nodded. Hearing the other party's words, the guard leader nodded, thinking that the other party had given up on the idea. However, upon hearing the words that followed behind it, he staggered and nearly spurted blood. The young man looked at him with a serious face and asked, "So, may I know where the physician examination is held?" To not even know where the physician examination is held. And you still want to take the examination? It's at the physician hall over there. The guard leader was seething with rage, but he still managed to hold himself back. Pointing to the front, he replied with a trembling voice. Looking toward where the other party's finger was pointed, Zhong Xian saw a huge hall, and a plaque placed on top of the entrance that wrote Physician Hall. All right, thank you. May I trouble you to prepare the medicinal herbs that I just spoke of? I will come and claim them after I'm done with the physician examination. Upon knowing the location, Zhong Xian instructed the receptionist, Ru, before heading over. Braggart. Upon seeing the other party leave, Ru could no longer hold herself back and harumphed with clear disdain in her voice. She was already absolutely certain that this fellow was here to wreak havoc. Otherwise, who would attempt the physician examination despite knowing nothing at all? He does seem somewhat unreliable. Given the prestige associated with being a physician, how can it possible for anyone to pass the examination that easily? The guard leader shook his head as well. It is one thing if you have studied the way of medicine before, but to not even know where the physician examination is held and that a prescription is required to purchase medicinal herbs, it can't be clearer to see that you are a newbie. And yet, you still want to take the examination. Aren't you underestimating this occupation a little way too much? That may not necessarily be so. I recall that there's a person in our guild who managed to pass the 1-star physician examination despite not being an apprentice. A guard spoke up. Oh, you're speaking of 3-star physician Mu Hong? He is an exception. Having come from a lineage of physicians, he has been learning the way of medicine since young. He possesses true ability, that's why he's able to pass the 1-star physician examination straight, the guard leader said. The other party was right, there was indeed an exception in the guild. It was the famous physician Mu Hong. Even though physician Mu Hong had never taken any examination prior to passing his 1-star physician examination such that he wasn't even an apprentice then, he had been accompanying his father on diagnosis and treatment runs and he was already famous by then. He is just an arrogant lad, how can he be compared to physician Mu Hong? Ru harumphed coldly. Physician Mu Hong had begun learning way of medicine from young, and by the age of 13, he was already treating patients by himself. Even though he had never taken the examination prior to that, he practically grew up in the physician guild and he was well aware of everything here. On the other hand, that fellow clearly knew nothing at all. Given the foolish and ignorant look on his face, and how he didn't even know of the prohibited medicinal herbs, how could the two of them possibly be the same? But no matter what, the other party is a teacher of Qianwu Academy. I don't think that he will complete not care for his reputation like that, the guard leader said. This. Ru fell speechless. The standing of a teacher was beneath that of a physician, but due to their relationship with master teachers, it was an esteemed occupation as well. As an official teacher of Qianwu Academy, it was unlikely for him to abandon his pride to cause trouble at the physician guild. He might really possess true ability. Indeed, it's possible that he might, like physician Mu Hong, pass the 1-star physician examination straight and amaze everyone. The two guards held deep respect for teachers. Now that you speak of it, it isn't entirely impossible. Hearing the analysis of the others, Ru hesitated for a moment before nodding her head. Just as she was about to continue speaking, the young man who just left a moment ago returned and asked sheepishly, "May I know what procedures are there to the physician examination? Also, what books do I have to read?" "Ya Ru. The guards. Staff cleric, I have one extra edited chapter at hand, so I'll launch a challenge. Post a phrase commonly used in the series that you find interesting, and if one of them receives 100 likes by today, I'll post another chapter." Chapter 331, Challenging the Guild Leader. Initially, they thought that the other party might really possess true capability, as it was unlikely that a teacher would cause trouble given their esteemed standing. However, after hearing the other party's words, they realized they were overthinking it. To not even know the procedures to the physician examination, the heck was he taking the examination for? Suppressing his anger, the guard leader said, "Liu Laroche, since you don't even know the procedure for the physician examination, I think it is better for you to just drop the matter." "Drop the matter?" Zhong Xian shook his head. "I don't want to take the examination as well, but you just told me that it is impossible to buy those medicinal herbs if I'm not a physician. All right, you just have to tell me what is tested on the physician examination, I'll settle the rest." The crowd tugged on their hair. "We don't want to bother you either. Just that, don't you think that you are going a little too far, attempting to take the physician examination despite knowing nothing at all? However, since you are so adamant to shame yourself, we'll wash our hands clean of this matter then." Displeased, the complexion of the guard leader darkened further. Even so, he still explained the procedures of the examination. Similar to the examinations of other occupations, the physician examination tests one's theoretical knowledge and practical skills. After you enter the physician hall, there will be some specialized personnel to bring you around. Hearing those words, the young man nodded, turned around, and walked to the physician hall. Physician who, the one in charge of the physician hall, detests this kind of ignorant examinee who banks on sheer luck to pass. That fellow is probably in for a round of misfortune. I thought that teachers will at least conduct themselves with propriety in consideration of their standing. But from the looks of it, it seems like I was expecting too much. To not even know the procedures of the physician examination, how can he possibly pass the examination? Indeed, if it was so easy to become a physician, there wouldn't be just 30 physicians in the entire city. Seeing how that fellow walked into the physician hall despite knowing nothing at all, everyone shook their heads. The guard leader initially thought that the other party might truly possess true capability. However, upon realizing that the other party was truly ignorant, he felt disdain toward the other party as well. It was often said that the academy's teachers were respectable and modest. After seeing this teacher, he realized that it was all bullshit. Have you seen a person who would dare to take the physician examination despite not knowing a single thing at all? All right, Ya Ru Xiajie, we will continue our patrol. See you later. Eventually, the guard leader clasped his fist and prepared to leave. But just as he was about to leave, the ground beneath him suddenly shook. A loud chime reverberated within the physician guild. Dong. It seemed to originate from a huge bell, and under the deafening reverberation, even the ground tremored. What's going on? I've got no idea, but it sounds like it came from the physician hall. Physician hall? That seems to be the case. After hearing the sound, the patients who were lined up for a diagnosis burst into commotion. In contrast to the confusion of the patients, the guard leader's face turned ghastly pale, and he began to tremble uncontrollably. With a fearful voice, he uttered, "This fellow, it can't be that he barged into the Wall of Dilemma." Wall of Dilemma? What's that? Ya Ru asked doubtfully. She was just a front receptionist. While she was roughly aware of the rules surrounding the physician examination, she didn't know the specific tests on the examination. The Wall of Dilemma is a place where the incurable illnesses are recorded. The illnesses that no one in the physician guild has been able to cure for the past century. The guard leader seemed as though he was about to cry. The illnesses that no one in the physician guild has been able to cure for the past century? Even a 3-star physician like Mu Hong? Ya Ru was taken aback. In their physician guild branch, the most skilled physician was 3-star physician Mu Hong. If the illnesses that no one could cure were recorded on the wall, Didn't that mean that even 3-star physician Mu Hong was helpless before them as well? Indeed. The guard leader nodded his head. Not just him, the physicians in our guild for the past few generations had been unable to do so as well. That's why it is called the Wall of Dilemma. If that's the case, why do you look so worried? Since it's a place where difficult illnesses are recorded, it shouldn't be a problem for him to enter, right? Ru was perplexed. She thought that it was a huge affair. In the end, didn't that teacher just enter the place where difficult illnesses were recorded? At most, the teacher could just back off after realizing his ignorance. As the guard leader of the Physician Guild, do you really need to be trembling uncontrollably like this over such a small matter? Ru wasn't the only one, the other guards were bewildered as well. Their leader had always been a calm person. Taking the encounter from a moment ago as example, even though he was infuriated by the other party's arrogance, he still remained calm and responded to his queries patiently and politely. Why would someone as calm as him become so nervous upon finding out that the other party had barged into this wall of dilemma? You all don't know what that place represents. Seeing the casual look on everyone's faces, the guard leader shook his head. What that place represents? That's right. The Wall of Dilemma is a place where only the guild leader of each generation is qualified to enter. Entering such a place means to challenge the incumbent guild leader for his position. With pale, trembling lips, the guard leader explained. Challenging the guild leader for his position? Everyone felt their vision turning dark. What in the world was going on? Why would barging into the Wall of Dilemma equate challenging the guild leader? Written on the Wall of Dilemma are problems that had stumped the physicians of the guild for a long period of time. Seeing the doubt in everyone's eyes, the guard leader smiled bitterly and explained, in order to become the guild leader, one has to possess medical skills far surpassing the others so as to win the respect of the entire guild. Everyone nodded. It was natural that one had to possess skills far surpassing other members to become a guild leader of an occupation. Unlike cultivation, the way of medicine isn't something that can be quantified. You can't simply gauge a person's medical skills by how long the treatment takes. After all, a complete treatment involves many aspects such as the post-recovery care and checking whether any trauma was inflicted in the process of the treatment. A person might be able to treat a patient within 2 days, but in the end, he might only be treating the symptoms rather than the root of the problem, thus leaving room for the illness to make a comeback. On the other hand, another physician could take a whole month to treat the same patient, but he could be treating the root of the problem instead. Everyone nodded in agreement. The strength of a cultivator could be easily gauged via a fight. But for physicians, it was harder to quantify one's ability. Different physicians had different specializations, and the fastest treatment might not necessarily be the most effective one. This was even more so when the two physicians were around the same level. Thus, the Physician Guild came up with a way to determine if a physician was superior to another, the Wall of Dilemma. The guard leader continued, recorded on the wall are the most difficult problems the physicians of the guild have faced throughout the years, and only those who intend to challenge the current guild leader would enter its premise. The more problems one solve, the more advanced one's medical skill is deemed to be, and thus, the easier it will be for one to gain the respect of the entire guild. If one couldn't even solve a single problem, it will be taken as that the other party was causing trouble and challenging the guild leader's authority. As such, that person will be punished. Everyone blinked their eyes as they came to a realization. It was no wonder why he was so anxious. Despite knowing nothing at all, the other party barged into the Wall of Dilemma, an action taken as a challenge against guild leader. If he were to fail to solve any of the problems listed, he would be subjected to a severe punishment. On the other hand, they, who had misled him, might be implicated as well. But since the illnesses listed on the Wall of Dilemma are problems that no one in the guild is able to solve, even if he were to answer them wrong, no one should know of it, right? After a moment of silence, Ru asked. Since it was a wall full of questions that no one could solve, no one should be able to say for sure whether a person's answer was right or wrong. Even if that fellow were to answer randomly, he might just be able to smoke his way through. If only it was that simple. The guard leader smiled bitterly. The Wall of Dilemma is a unique spirit artifact that is linked to the headquarters. If someone challenges the wall of dilemma, a 4-star physician on the other side of the wall will check the answer personally. If he deems it to be correct, an orange glow will appear on the wall. If he deems it to be wrong, a red glow will appear instead. Linked to the headquarters? Glow. Everyone was stunned. If that was the case, it was impossible for that Liu Laroche to falsify his results. Given how ignorantly that fellow acted just now, red glows would only appear again and again, and then it would be the end of them. Then that bell is? Ru asked. That bell informs the entire physician guild that someone has triggered the wall of dilemma to challenge the guild leader. At this, the guard leader froze and pointed forward. We're done for. Looking toward where his finger was pointed at, the edges of everyone's mouths twitched. More than a dozen of the top echelons of the guild were currently walking toward them. Guild leader Mu Hong, 3-star physician Du Rao, physician Cheng Feng. Every time a name was called, Ru's eyebrows would twitch once. They were all figures in the upper echelon of the physician guild. The chiming of the bell had summoned all of them here. For someone to challenge him, it was clear how awful the guild leader Mu Hong's complexion would be. What happened? Guild leader Mu Hong immediately walked to the physician hall and asked imposingly. Reporting to the guild leader, a person has just entered, and he seems to be challenging the wall of dilemma. An apprentice who was done diagnosing a patient replied. He didn't see the situation clearly, but after hearing the bell, he heard a thing or two from the discussions in the surroundings. Challenging the wall of dilemma? Guild leader Mu Hong's eyebrow twitched. Someone was eyeing his seat. Who is it? I didn't get a good look at him. However, he seemed to came from over there, so the front receptionist might know something. The apprentice hesitated for a moment before replying. The receptionist. Call those guys over. Guild leader Mu Hong instructed. Ru and the guards had no choice but to walk over with tearful faces. Speak, what happened? Who is the one who challenged the wall of dilemma? The guild leader spoke authoritatively. Reporting to the guild leader, it's a teacher from Tianwu Academy who goes by the surname of Liu. The guard leader trembled in fear, but he mustered his courage and answered. A teacher who goes by the surname of Liu? Physician Mu Hong blinked. Why would a teacher enter the wall of dilemma? He is here for the physician examination, so we directed him to the physician hall. We also have no idea how he managed to enter the wall of dilemma. The guard leader said with a quivering voice. He is here for the physician examination? How many stars is he? To challenge the wall of dilemma, is he a 3-star physician? But this doesn't make sense. Guild leader Mu Hong frowned as he contemplated over the matter. Since the other party dared to challenge the wall of dilemma and him, he had to be at least a 3-star physician. But when did such an incredible physician appear in Tianwu Academy? 3-star? The guard leader nearly fainted. Reporting to the guild leader, he doesn't have a rank yet, and he isn't even an apprentice. And yet, he dares to challenge me. A dark line streaked across physician Mu Hong's forehead. Is his medical skills outstanding? Outstanding. The guard leader cried. It's possible that he doesn't know medicine at all. Chapter 332. Perfect solution. He doesn't know medicine at all? Guild leader Mu Hong's body trembled. To dare to challenge him despite not knowing the slightest thing about medicine at all. When did the position of a guild leader become so cheap? What happened? Explain everything to me clearly. With a complexion so dark that it seemed as though one could squeeze ink from it, he bellowed. It's like that. The leader of the guards and Ru explained the situation with Liu Laroche in detail to guild leader Mu Hong. After hearing the words of the duo, regardless whether it was Mu Hong, Du Rao, Cheng Feng, or the other physicians, they were all dumbfounded. How could there be such an eccentric person in the world? To manage to stumble into the wall of dilemma like that, wasn't he lucky? Guild leader, given that he has triggered the wall of dilemma, connection with the headquarter must have already been established. What should we do now? Physician Cheng Feng asked. Upon the activation of the wall of dilemma, a bell would chime and the wall of dilemma would attempt to establish connection with the headquarter. Most likely, a 4-star physician would have already been stationed on the other side, waiting to assess the challenger. If they were to intrude into the test halfway, it was highly probable that they would incur the ire of the headquarters. What else can we do? We can only wait here until he's done. Since he doesn't even know the slightest thing about medicine, he would surely be unable to answer any of the questions. Once he fails, we'll teach him a lesson and kick him out. Mu Hong's complexion looked awful. Challenging the wall of dilemma didn't just undermine his authority and sully his prestige. More importantly, the headquarter would be alarmed of this farce as well, to allow such an ignorant oaf to challenge the wall of dilemma. Just the thought of what the headquarter would think of them made Mu Hong tempted to kill the other party. For such a blemish to appear on a Tier 1 Kingdom Physician Guild, could the situation be any more darned? Yes. Knowing that the guild leader was truly enraged over this matter, the crowd didn't dare to even breathe loudly. Can we see the results of the wall of dilemma from here? While a gloomy atmosphere was looming in this area, there was huge bustle over at the apprentices' and patients' side. The apprentices had finally understood what was going on, and they immediately put aside their work to observe the abrupt situation out of curiosity. One of the more knowledgeable people in the crowd nodded. The wall of dilemma of the physician hall is constructed with a unique material similar to that used in the examination hall of the master teacher pavilion. If the challenger inside were to submit an erroneous answer, the exterior wall of the room will flash red. On the other hand, if a correct answer is submitted, an orange glow will appear. Furthermore, there are different tiers to the answer as well. Tiers? That's right. Different techniques and medicinal herbs used in the treatment of the same illness would yield different effectiveness. As such, treatment methods can be classified as subpass, pass, good, and excellent. A ray of orange light represents subpass, 2 rays represent pass, 3 rays represent good, and 4 rays represent excellent. Back then, guild leader Mu Hong consecutively solved 4 illnesses on the wall of dilemma, and on top of that, every single treatment method he submitted ended up inducing 3 rays of orange light, dazzling the entire physician hall. It was truly an unforgettable sight for all that was present back then. Recalling that incredible scene back then, the faces of a few veterans of the guild reddened in agitation. Those illnesses were problems that had remained unsolved by the geniuses of the guild throughout the years. Those problems might not be anything much to those 4-star physicians of the headquarter, but to Tianwu Kingdom, they were questions of absurd difficulty. Guild leader Mu Hong's feat of solving 4 questions with 3 orange rays of light each had left everyone both awestruck then. Guild leader Mu Hong sure is incredible. Indeed. Given how that fellow who just barged in knew nothing at all, a red light will probably appear very soon. Discussions could be heard around the room. Suddenly, the wall of the physician hall trembled, and an imposing aura emanated from it. That fellow has just finished answering a question on the wall of dilemma, and the physician on the other side is currently checking it. I think he'll be in for a round of misfortune soon. Halfway through his words, that person's eyes suddenly widened. A reverberation echoed in the room, and he suddenly froze. The wall before him emanated a bright light, but it wasn't red. It was orange. How is this possible? Did he answer it correctly? But how can that be? These questions have remained unsolved over the course of so many years, and innumerable 3-star physicians had attempted them only to end in failure. How could he possibly succeed? Isn't he an ignorant oaf who knows nothing at all? Rubbing his eyes, that person stared at the sight before him in disbelief. It seems like not only did he provide a correct answer, it seems to be above the level of subpass. A voice sounded among the crowd. After which, before the light on the wall could fade completely, another burst of light took its place. The 2 rays of light overlapped with one another, filling the room with tremendous brilliance. Before everyone's gaze of disbelief, the wall shook once more and yet another ray of light burst forth. For a moment, it was as if a sun had descended upon the room, blinding everyone's eyes with its radiance. 3 rays. 4 rays. 5 rays. A total of 5 rays of orange light had appeared from the wall. This is perfect. A perfect answer. Upon seeing the sight, the mouths of a few veterans in the room twitched. They were rendered completely speechless by the sight. It was common knowledge that there were only 4 levels to a treatment method, subpass, pass, good, and excellent. But in truth, there was another level that few knew about, a level that only existed in the legends. A treatment method of that level was capable of solving an illness completely in the shortest period of time while using the most inexpensive and common medicinal herb. It was known as perfect treatment method. Such treatment methods possessed absurd compatibility with the illness that not the slightest side effect would be derived from the treatment. Compared to this, all other treatment methods were no different from dirt. However, such level of treatment method existed only in the legends. In the several thousand years of history since the establishment of Tianwu Kingdom, no one had ever heard of the existence of a perfect treatment method. Yet, not only did that ignorant oaf actually manage to come up with such a treatment method. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? 5 rays of orange light. What in the world is going on? A perfect treatment method? The entire room burst into an uproar. Upon seeing this sight, guild leader Mu Hong felt a little lightheaded. He immediately turned to Ru and the guard leader and glared at them. The heck? Didn't you say that the fellow who went in was an ignorant fellow? Explain to me what is going on. Tears streamed down the face of the guard leader. Brother, I thought you didn't know anything at all. How in the world did you manage to solve the incurable illnesses of the Wall of Dilemma? Furthermore, for it to induce 5 rays of orange light, a perfect treatment method? He is probably just lucky. Perhaps he will fail at the next question. Biting his tongue, the guard leader could only force his way through. However, before he could finish his words, the wall shook once more. Wong 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 wong. Another 5 rays of orange light burst into the surroundings once more. Another perfect treatment method? What the heck is he? Seeing the second instance of 5 rays of orange light, another huge uproar exploded in the hall. The guard leader felt a stinging sensation on his face, and he nearly spurted blood and died from frustration. He had just said that the other party was only lucky when the other party immediately overthrew his words with his actions. Even if you are so eager to slap my face, surely you don't have to do it so quickly. Wong 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 wong. However, that wasn't the end of it yet. The light grew brighter and brighter, and the intervals between them grew shorter and shorter. It was as if they had stepped into a festive firework celebration. Wave after wave of orange light assaulted their vision. 3 times. 4 times. 5 times. 18 times. It was only less than an hour since the appearance of the first instance of the 5 rays of orange light, and it had already appeared consecutively for another 17 times. Slowly, the shock grew into numbness. Guild leader Mu Hong's lips quivered. At this point, he was already on the verge of tears. He thought that he could already be considered as a genius given how he induced 3 rays of orange light for 4 times. He thought that no one in Tianwu Kingdom would be able to match his feat. However, after seeing this sight, he realized that his accomplishment was truly nothing at all. The other party doesn't know medicine? What a joke. If the other party doesn't know medicine, then what do I count as? Am I worse than an ignorant oaf? Guild leader. Seeing Mu Hong's current state, the guard leader called cautiously after noticing the latter's daze. Guild leader, your head. I am no longer the guild leader, that fellow inside is. Mu Hong flung his sleeves furiously. As long as one's result in the Wall of Dilemma surpassed that of the previous guild leader, one would automatically take his place. Mu Hong had only managed to induce 3 rays of orange light 4 times, but the other party had achieved the level of perfect for 18 times straight. At this point, there was already no way to dispute this. In other words, that fellow inside was already the guild leader. Yes. The mouth of the guard leader twitched, and he hurriedly shut his mouth fearfully. He was afraid that this physician Mu Hong would go on a rampage and kill him on the spot if he were to speak any further. Echi. Ru shuddered fearfully. She felt so much regret that her guts were turning green. If only she knew that the fellow inside possessed incredible medical skill that was superior to even that of the guild leader, she would have never dared to act so rudely to him. Considering how disdainfully she treated him at the start, it was about time for her to resign from her job and go into hiding. In contrast to the gloomy atmosphere floating around guild leader Mu Hong and the others, the majority of the crowd in the hall was rowdy, excited by this incredible sight. 5 rays of orange light. All 18 of those solutions are a perfect treatment method. To be able to see such a formidable physician overcome the wall of dilemma, I feel like I haven't lived my life in vain. Hurry up and inform the old master. Wasn't his illness listed on the wall of dilemma? There is finally a cure for him. The commotion slowly crescendoed as everyone's eyes burned with excitement. The explanations and descriptions from the apprentices and veterans had given them a rough idea of the current situation. To actually solve 18 difficult illnesses listed on the wall of dilemma, and on top of that, for all of them to reach the level of perfect treatment method, the medical skill of the person inside had already surpassed the capability of a 3-star physician. It was a huge benefit to have such an incredible physician in Tianwu Kingdom. After all, no matter how much money they had, if they couldn't find a sufficiently capable physician to treat them, it would be for naught. There are only a total of 20 questions on the wall of dilemma. Could he really solve all of them in one go? Putting aside his dismay, Physician Mu Hong stared at the wall before him intently. Other people might not be aware of how many questions there were on the wall of dilemma, but as the previous guild leader and someone who had challenged the wall of dilemma, it was natural that he was aware of the situation on site. Even though these questions had accumulated over several centuries, every succeeding guild leader would always strike a few questions off the wall, leaving only a total of 20 questions. The other party had already solved the 18th, and every single answer was on the level of perfect. Could this fellow really solve all 20 questions in one go? Impossible. The final question is an illness who no one was able to solve in the past several centuries. It is impossible for him to solve it. Recalling the final question, Mu Hong clenched his jaws. Even though the other illnesses were difficult as well, this concept of difficult was only limited to Tianwu Kingdom. To the physicians in Shenyuan Kingdom or other more advanced regions, those problems were nothing more than a walk in the park. However, the final question was an illness that stumped even the physicians of conferred kingdoms. It was an extremely rare and troublesome illness. Rumor has it that a 5-star physician had once attempted to find a solution to the illness, but in the end, he wasn't even able to find the root of the problem, leaving him at a loss to even where he should start. Wong. Just as his thoughts were wandering around, orange rays of light filled the hall once more. The 19th question was also solved with a perfect grade. It's down to the last question now. Physician Mu Hong's breathing quickened. Chapter 333. We don't know. Either a middle-aged man was seated on the lofty throne within Tianwu Royal Palace. The Emperor of Tianwu Kingdom, Mo Tianxue. You say that someone challenged the guild leader in the Physician Guild, and that he solved 19 consecutive questions on the wall of dilemma? Mo Tianxue was staring at a guard in disbelief. He was well aware of the fact that the questions on the wall of dilemma were difficult illnesses which had baffled innumerable genius physicians over the years. Even if a 4-star physician came, he would definitely be unable to solve all of them in a single go. Yet, a seemingly unimpressive fellow had solved 19 successive questions. On top of that, his solutions were on the level of perfection. This is insanity. It is the unmistakable truth. A grey-robed man clasped his fist respectfully. This grey-robed man's aura was rather irregular, but one could still tell that he was a Zhongsha realm expert. Those who were familiar with the kingdom's workings would definitely recognize his identity as a member of the most secretive army in Tianwu Kingdom, Shadow Squad. The Shadow Squad was an organization directly controlled by Mo Tianxue, and they often carried out unhonorable missions in the darkness. With such a huge affair at the Physician Guild, all of them rushed to the royal palace in first time to inform the emperor of the news. To be capable of solving so many questions on the wall of dilemma and provide perfect treatment methods over and above all, that person's mastery in the way of medicine has most probably already reached the standard of a 4-star or even 5-star physician. Mo Tianxue clenched his fists tightly. Indeed. If he were to offer his services to the kingdom, the traumas that occur in the guards' training would be resolved easily. Perhaps, with his help, Your Majesty might even be able to achieve a breakthrough to reach that level, the grey-robed man said. You're right. Mo Tianxue's eyes lit up. Then, with an anxious look, he asked, have you found out who he is? There was no such thing as a perfect cultivation technique. As such, all kinds of traumas would appear in one's cultivation. Even though most of them do not pose a threat to one's life and do not affect one's ability to exert their strength, it locks down one's cultivation, making it difficult to progress further. If one can solve his traumas, there is a high possibility that he will be able to advance another step in his cultivation. But of course, that is only a possibility. After all, a physician is only capable of treatment. Unlike master teachers, a physician is incapable of offering pointers for one to achieve a breakthrough. Even so, resolving one's trauma would extend one's longevity and make one more spirited. This is also the reason why physician is one of the top occupations of the upper 9 paths. We have already looked into the matter. His name is Liu Cheng, and he is a newly recruited teacher in Tianwu Academy. At 24 this year, his cultivation is at Tongxian Realm Primary stage. He passed the teacher examination in Quanhai City's Teacher Guild, and he once took a class at Quanhai City for a year. Here is his information. After which, the grey-robed man passed a piece of paper over. The fact that the Shadow Squad was able to gather comprehensive information on Liu Cheng so quickly bore testimony to their fearsome prowess. UN. Grabbing the paper, Mo Tianxue swiftly browsed through the contents. All kinds of personal information on Liu Cheng had been recorded on the document. The identity that the Master Teacher Pavilion created for Zhongxian was truly impeccable. There were no flaws, and even the Shadow Squad was only able to gather this much. To think that an ordinary teacher in Quanhai City would possess such astounding medical skills. Help me prepare another identical set of the gift that was meant for Master Teacher Zhongxian, and as soon as he leaves the Wall of Dilemma, we will head over to greet him. After browsing through his information, Mo Tianxue affirmed that there was nothing wrong with his background and he gestured excitedly. The present for Zhongshe? The grey-robed man was taken aback. As a close aide of the emperor, he knew how valuable the gift prepared for Zhongshe was. Indeed, a talent of his level is already on par with Zhongshe. In fact, his usefulness surpasses even that of Zhongshe, Mo Tianxue reasoned. Yes. The grey-robed man nodded. All right, let's go. Accompany me to the Physician Guild. After which, Mo Tianxue dismounted his throne and began forward without any hesitation. Tianwu Academy. Principal Xie was sitting gloomily alone in his courtyard. No matter who it was, it would be hard for one not to feel embarrassed getting criticized by a new teacher. Principal. He was thinking of a way to vent his frustration when an elder rushed into his courtyard. What's wrong? Principal Xie frowned. That. Liu Laroche went to challenge the Wall of Dilemma, an elder said. Challenge the Wall of Dilemma? To provoke guild leader Mu Hong, is there something wrong with that fellow's head? Principal Xie's body swayed, and he nearly blacked out. Instead of teaching your class properly, what are you doing over at the Physician Guild? On top of that, challenging their Wall of Dilemma and provoking their guild leader, you must be mad. He is truly a problematic teacher. Nevertheless, he possesses true capability and will become a pillar of the academy in the future. We mustn't allow anything to happen to him. The other party had embarrassed him in public, but as fellow teachers, he felt obligated to stand up for him. Bring me my name scroll, I will visit guild leader Mu Hong now. Hopefully, he won't pursue the matter on my account. No, that's not enough. Challenging the Wall of Dilemma is equivalent to an attempt to wrest authority from the current guild leader. Guild leader Mu Hong won't allow this matter to simply rest. Let's go to the Master Teacher Pavilion to look for Pavilion Master Jiang. With his help, the situation should be much easier to resolve. Thus, Principal Xie stood up and prepared to rush to the Master Teacher Pavilion. Cough cough. Principal, wait for a moment. Allow me to finish my words first. The elder felt stifled. The principal had reacted violently after hearing a single sentence. He couldn't find a chance to cut into his words at all. What's the use of talking about it? I know guild leader Mu Hong's temper well. He will definitely fly into a rage upon seeing someone in his position. Even though that Liu Laroche is a little arrogant, he is still a member of our Tianwu Academy. We mustn't allow anything to happen to him. Otherwise, the pride of our academy will be sullied. Principal Xie swung his hands and rushed out of the courtyard. However, barely after he took 2 steps, The elder stopped him. Principal, allow me to first finish my words. The elder felt faint-headed. Why are you so agitated? Can't you allow me to finish my words? Speak. Can it be that we're already too late and that guild leader Mu Hong has already laid his hands on him? Seeing the anxious look on the other party's face, an ominous omen loomed over his mind. Gudding, Principal Xie's heart skipped a beat. That's not it. Liu Laroche has solved 19 questions on the wall of dilemma consecutively, and he provided a perfect treatment method for every single one of them. Right now, the entire physician guild is in an uproar. Afraid that the other party would jump into conclusion once more, the elder spoke quickly. Solved 19 questions on the wall of dilemma. Provided a perfect treatment method for each of them. Principal Xie was taken aback. It took him moments before he managed to digest the other party's words, and his eyes nearly popped out from its sockets. You mean to say that Liu Laroche has already broken physician Mu Hong's record and he is now the new guild leader of the physician guild? Yes. The elder flashed a bitter smile. When he first heard this news himself, he also felt as though the world had gone mad. His condition then wasn't any better than that of the current Principal Xie. How is this possible? Principal Xie froze in shock. Oblivious to the huge uproar he had caused, Zhongxian was staring at the final question on the wall of dilemma. The Library of Heaven's Path could only reflect flaws, it couldn't provide a solution to these flaws. When a person is ill, it means that a flaw has appeared on him, resulting in his current condition. As long as one is able to identify the crux of the problem and work backward, it isn't too difficult to treat an illness. That was precisely the reason why, even though the first 19 questions had stumped many talented physicians, Zhongxian was able to solve them easily, providing perfect treatment solutions without thinking for long. Innate muscular deficiency resulting in the lack of strength in one's body and a lifespan of only 20 years. How do we treat this? The final question carved on the wall of dilemma was just 2 short sentences, and it seemed to be simple. Innate muscular deficiency? With a will of his mind, a book appeared in Zhongxian's head. Zhongxian had taken in a substantial number of books in the master-teacher pavilion. As physician was one of the top occupations of the upper 9 paths, there was a substantial collection within. It just so happened that there was an introduction on the illness. Innate muscular deficiency results in the stagnation of the growth in one's muscles. A person born with such a condition can only lie on the bed, unable to exercise or cultivate. There was only a brief introduction to the illness in the book. There wasn't a solution provided. Let's see whether there is any solution to it. Flaws. Placing his hand on the wall, Zhongxian thought. Wang. A book appeared in his mind. Innate muscular deficiency refers to a lack in strength in one's muscles. Flaws. An inborn damage in one's meridians. On the portion of the book detailing the flaws of innate muscular deficiency, the locations of the damaged meridians, acupoints, and body parts were stated. This. With a glance, Zhongxian suddenly froze. This illness is actually the opposite of the Heaven's Path golden body. He had never heard of the illness, but based on the flaws, he realized that it bore striking resemblance to the cultivation method of Heaven's Path golden body. That was to say, one could easily solve this illness through the cultivation method of Heaven's Path golden body. The Heaven's Path golden body shouldn't be leaked out, but this is a part of the physician examination. If I were to answer this question inaccurately, I might not be able to become an official physician. Feeling distressed, Zhongxian rubbed his glabella. He didn't know about the wall of dilemma, and up until now, he still thought that he was only taking the physician examination. Since I know the specific points where the flaws appear in, as long as one uses zhenqi to nourish these few spots, the illness should still be treated even without the cultivation method of Heaven's Path golden body. After hesitating for a moment, Zhongxian suddenly slapped his forehead. All along, he had been thinking in the capacity of an individual, neglecting the fact that the zhenqi could come from an external source. As long as he wrote down points that needed to be nourished with zhenqi and avoid mentioning the formula in detail, the Heaven's Path golden body would not be leaked. After all, the crux to all cultivation techniques lies in the formula to propel one's zhenqi. All right. After confirming the treatment, Zhongxian picked up a brush and started writing on the wall. It'll probably be impossible for him to solve this question. Physician Mu Hong stood stiffly before the physician hall with his hands clenched by his sides. The other party had already surpassed his feat, replacing him as the new guild leader. No matter how depressed he got over this matter, this was already a fact. At this moment, all he wanted to know was whether this Liu fellow would be able to solve all 20 problems on the Wall of Dilemma with a perfect grade. If that really happens, the Tianwu Kingdom Physician Guild would gain great prestige because of this. However, even 4-star physicians would be puzzled by the final question. Is it even possible for that Liu Laroche to succeed? Wang. Just as they were anxiously waiting for the result, the wall before them started to tremor once more. The results are out. Everyone waited with bated breaths. Physician Mu Hong stiffened in nervousness. Who? A bright ray of light radiated from the wall. It's a ray of white light? What does white light means? Red light should indicate failure while orange light reflects a correct answer. Why would there be a white light? Upon seeing the light, everyone became flabbergasted. Even Physician Mu Hong widened his eyes in astonishment. The answers should either be right or right. In other words, the light should either be red or orange. For a white light to be emanated instead. What the heck? Can the wall in the physician hall have spoiled? That should be impossible, right? Everyone blinked in disbelief. Wait, something seems to be appearing. Just when everyone was overwhelmed with shock, someone from within the crowd shouted suddenly. Swiftly turning toward the smooth wall, 4 words slowly floated into appearance: we don't know either. Staff cleric, sorry to delay updates on a cliffhanger, straight face. I've posted it on my Discord already, but my editor and I have been rather busy lately, so do pardon us. I won't be able to guarantee updates for the next 2 days, but rest assured that we'll make up for the chapters lost over the weekend. Chapter 334. Guild Leader, we don't know either? What does that mean? I have no idea too. It is said that answers to the Wall of Dilemma are appraised personally by 4-star masters. For we don't know either to appear, does that mean that even 4-star physicians are unable to determine whether the answer Liu Laroche gave is correct? That can't be true, right? If that's the case, doesn't that mean that Liu Laroche's medical skill surpasses that of a 4-star physician? Everyone stared at the wall before them dumbfounded. The 4 words "we don't know" either left everyone faint-headed. The ones on the other side of the Wall of Dilemma are 4-star physicians. And, even they are unable to determine whether the answer is correct or wrong. The heck? Liu Laroche, exactly what kind of answer did you give? Such that other side does not dare to reject it outright, even admitting its ignorance. The corners of Physician Mu Hong's lips twitched. He found himself swaying from side to side, unable to maintain his balance. He thought he had imagined every circumstance possible, even that of 5 rays of orange light. Never in his wildest dreams had he expected that the other party would admit to not knowing the answer. Don't know your head. All of you are 4-star physicians. To speak of such words before so many people. Are you still in your right mind? Wang. Before they could recover from their shock, the 4 words on the wall had faded and another line appeared. We will announce our judgment 10 days later. These words disappeared slowly as well. Seems like the other side is truly unsure. They will need to report to a higher level branch or look for a patient with innate muscular deficiency in order to test out the treatment method. Even though it was said that the Wall of Dilemma was connected to the headquarter, this headquarter actually referred to another branch which was just a tier higher than that of the Tianwu Physician Guild branch. After all, the headquarter was incomparably powerful, filled with 8-star to 9-star physicians. How can it possibly be connected to small place like Tianwu Kingdom Physician Guild? It was just like how Zhongxian requested for a unravel yin pill from the headquarter in the Tianxian Kingdom Apothecary Guild back then. In truth, their communications had merely reached Tianwu Kingdom, and Apothecary Hongyun was dispatched. Otherwise, if everyone were to contact the headquarter for all random and miscellaneous matters, wouldn't it die from exhaustion? We will give our judgment 10 days later. So does it mean that he solved the question or not? The crowd was stunned. Even if he answered the last question wrongly, This Liu Laroche has already answered 19 questions with a perfect grade. He has already surpassed guild leader Mu Hong, making him the new guild leader. Someone commented. Everyone came to a realization. So what if that fellow got the final question wrongly? The results had already far surpassed that of any previous guild leader. Without a doubt, he had already become the new guild leader. However, wasn't his purpose here the physician examination? If he doesn't have a rank beforehand, what rank should he be assigned? Someone raised his doubt. Suddenly, the entire room fell silent. Indeed, if he doesn't possess any rank as a physician from before, how should we handle this situation? He was able to solve all of the questions on the wall of dilemma, even forcing 4-star physicians to admit their ignorance. The level of mastery of his medical skill definitely far surpasses that of a 3-star, perhaps even reaching the level of a 5-star. However, since even the guild wasn't able to evaluate such a high-ranked physician, how can they issue such an emblem to him? Don't worry, the answer will be out in 10 days. Once the answer is determined, the headquarter will decide his rank personally, so we don't have to worry too much. A 2-star physician said. UN. The crowd nodded. That made sense as well. This shouldn't be a matter within their consideration. Given how the other party challenged the wall of dilemma and solved so many questions, even jotting down an answer beyond the understanding of 4-star physicians, this problem should be one for the headquarter to bear. There wasn't a need for them to think so much. Jia. They were still discussing when the door to the physician hall opened and Zhong Xian walked out. Upon seeing the huge crowd gathered outside, and that all of the gazes were on him, Zhong Xian was given a shock. What is going on? He had merely taken a physician examination. Why was there such a huge crowd, and why were all of them looking at him? Glancing around, he finally found the leader of the guards and Ya Ru, and the hurried over. Why is the examination different what you told me? So, have I passed the examination? According to their words, the physician examination should be no different from that of other occupations. Yet, after he went in, he didn't see anyone, only a wall which kept posing questions to him. It was completely different from what they said. It can't be that I took the wrong examination. Will they fail me for this? GU Guild leader, you are jesting. The leader of the guards trembled uncontrollably. Guild leader. Zhong Xian was stunned. He stared at the duo, and just he was about to ask them what they meant, more than a dozen of physicians with an emblem pinned on their chests walked over and clasped their fists, paying our respects to Guild Leader Liu. Guild Leader Liu? What does this mean? Zhong Xian was dumbfounded. He had no idea what was going on. It is just a physician examination. Why is everyone calling me Guild Leader? Did they eat something wrong this morning? Guild Leader Liu challenged the wall of dilemma and solved 19 questions consecutively. As such, you have become the new leader of our physician guild. Physician Mu Hong stepped forward. New guild leader. Zhong Xian blinked his eyes. Becoming a guild leader just by answering a few questions? Isn't this too much of a child's play? The others swiftly explained the situation to him, and upon comprehending what was going on, Zhong Xian went speechless. He had only intended to take the physician examination. Never in his dreams did he expect to cause such a huge commotion and become the guild leader of the physician guild. Even so, everything had already happened, and there was nothing much he could do. Remembering the initial aim he had in mind coming to the physician guild, he turned to Ya Ru and asked, then since I became the guild leader, do I have to right to purchase white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, wolf venom grass? All of these medicinal herbs? Ya Ru cried. She had just said that the other party didn't have the qualifications to purchase it, and he went on immediately to become the guild leader of the physician guild. This face slap. Since you are the guild leader, of course you do have the qualifications to purchase these medicinal herbs. However, we don't have all of the herbs you want here. Upon knowing about the entire situation, Mu Hong hesitated for a moment before explaining to the other party. Physicians do utilize poison in their treatments, but it is extremely rare. While the guild had white angelica flower, crimson-edged leaf, and such medicinal herbs, it didn't have the more potent poisonous medicinal herbs. Then, bring me those that can be found here first. Zhong Xian said. UN. Mu Hong replied and issued some instructions to Ya Ru. It didn't take long for Ya Ru to return with a huge bag of medicinal herbs. After taking a look, Zhongxian verified that all except 2 of the medicinal herbs he needed were inside. Gold leaf spark twig and 9 worms flower are lethal poison, so we don't have any of them here. However, the poison hall will definitely have them, Mu Hong said. Poison hall? Zhongxian shook his head. Naturally, Zhongxian knew that the poison hall had them as well. However, it would take him 4 to 5 days just for a to-and-fro trip to the Red Lotus City. On top of that, he would require an additional 10 days to tread through the Red Lotus Range to arrive at and return from the Poison Hall. In total, the journey would take at least half a month. By the time he returned, it would already be way past 10 days. Right, I heard that Pavilion Master Jiang likes collecting valuable medicinal herbs. You might be able to find those 2 herbs from him. After hesitating for a moment, Mu Hong suddenly recalled something and said, Pavilion Master Jiang? All right. Zhongxian nodded. It might have been difficult for him to obtain those 2 valuable medicinal herbs from anyone else, but Pavilion Master Jiang was his student. As long as he appeared before the other party as Yang Xian, obtaining these 2 medicinal herbs shouldn't be a problem at all. How much do all of these medicinal herbs cost? Keeping the medicinal herbs into his storage ring, Zhongxian asked. A total of 14 million gold coins. Mu Hong clasped his hand. 14 million gold coins? Zhongxian was astounded. He thought that it would only cost a few 100,000 gold coin. For it add up to 14 million gold coin, this was daylight robbery. But considering that he was already the guild leader, it was impossible for the other party to lie to him blatantly in public. Thus, he could only hand over a huge wad of cash helplessly. 10 million might be a huge sum, but Zhongxian accrued quite a substantial wealth back when he was still in Tianqian Kingdom. As such, he was still able to bear with such expenditure. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving now. Physician Mu Hong, I will only serve as an honorary guild leader, so I'll be depending on you to deal with the matters of the guild. Zhongxian only came here just to buy medicinal herbs. Since he had already achieved his goal, there was no need for him to remain here. Thus, he clasped his fist and bided farewell. Everyone thought that the new guild leader would immediately attempt to conduct a reorganization of the entire guild. After all, most newly appointed leaders tended to flaunt their authority by trying to instill new changes to the organization. Yet, contrary to their expectations, the other party simply dumped everything on physician Mu Hong and left. This left everyone dumbfounded. Farewell. Ignoring the bewildered gazes of the crowd, Zhongxian walked out of the physician guild. It didn't take long before he disappeared from their sight. He wasn't interested in being a guild leader or whatsoever. His only goal at the moment was to successfully advance as a 2-star master teacher so as to gain the authority to look up the affairs of Empyrean Kongshe and find the solution to his innate fetal poison. There was nothing more important than this. What happened? After Zhongxian left, everyone was silent for a long time. At this moment, a perplexed elder suddenly walked into the guild. Physician who? You aren't at the physician hall? Upon seeing the elder, the crowd froze in shock. Physician who was the physician in charge of the physician examinations. How in the world was he only walking into the guild at this moment? I just went out for a moment. What's going on? Physician who had been away the entire time, so he had no idea what was going on. He was just perplexed as to why such a huge crowd, not to mention guild leader Mu Hong and the other influential elders, was gathered here. Went out for a moment. Everyone was speechless. They had considered the possibility that Liu Laroche might have intentionally challenged the Wall of Dilemma. But judging from how physician who wasn't around then, there was a high chance that the other party really stumbled into the room accidentally. But yet, he still managed to solve all of the questions on the Wall of Dilemma. Does it have to be so darned? You all are saying that. In the hour I was gone, someone barged into the physician hall and solved all of the questions on the Wall of Dilemma with perfect treatment methods. Soon, someone explained the situation to physician who, and in that instant, physician who could only hear thunder rumbling in his head. For such a matter to happen while he was gone, It seems like he wouldn't be able to escape the blame for neglecting his responsibility. The ruckus that Zhong Xian's successful challenge of the Wall of Dilemma caused wasn't just limited to Qianwu Kingdom. On the other end of the Wall of Dilemma, a few elders were gathered together. They were all staring at one another blankly. The innate muscular deficiency is a terminal disease. Back then, physician Fei Qing attempted to solve this affliction, but even he fell in defeat before it. In the end, he could only watch as his patient fell into death's embrace. The answer that physician gave us. Can it really be the right treatment method to the illness? That. I don't know either, but there are two ways to check on it. We can either report it upward or we can try the solution on someone with innate muscular deficiency. I remember that the second princess of the alliance suffers from innate muscular deficiency. Indeed. Prepare the carriages, let's head off to the alliance head residence now. The few elders stood up simultaneously. Chapter 335, Myriad Kingdom Alliance. There were countless kingdoms like Tianxian and Tianwu scattered all over the continent. The ranks of a kingdom are as follows: unranked, Tianxian Kingdom, Tier 2 Kingdom, Beiwu Kingdom, Tier 1 Kingdom, Tianwu Kingdom, and Conferred Kingdom, Shenyuan Kingdom. Due to the multitude of kingdoms, conflict and war were inevitable. Thus, in order to mediate the conflicts among the kingdoms, an existence transcending beyond the system of kingdoms emerged. Myriad Kingdom Alliance. The Wall of Dilemma was connected to the Physician Guild of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance. The alliance head who those elders spoke of was the most authoritative figure within the alliance, the one whom all emperors bowed down to and dared not defy. Soon, the carriage arrived at the alliance head residence. Report to the alliance head that guild leader Meng and physician Hong from the Physician Guild requests an audience. Yes. Soon, under the lead of the guards, the physicians walked into the palace-like alliance head residence. You're saying that you found a way to treat Liana? Arriving at the main hall, a middle-aged man looked at them with glowing eyes. He exuded an aura of authority and power which all would defer to. We aren't sure about whether the treatment method is effective or not, so we would like to. Guild leader Meng's face flushed as he hesitated for a moment before continuing. Try it out. Audacious. As the most authoritative man in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance, it was already a huge torture for him to watch helplessly as his daughter suffer. Yet, these physicians were saying that they want to experiment an unverified treatment method on his daughter. If something wrong were to happen, who could bear the responsibility? Are you suggesting to experiment with my daughter's life? Raising his eyebrows, a menacing aura emanated from that middle-aged man. In an instant, the two physicians felt as though they were suddenly plunged into massive storm, and the world was ripping apart before them. The alliance head of the Myriad King Alliance wasn't a hereditary position but a nominated one. Without absolute strength, it was impossible for one to rise up to the position. I dare not to. Guild leader Meng's face paled. Exhaling deeply, he said, Alliance head, please allow me to finish my words first. If you don't wish to have the princess take on this risk, then we won't say any more on the matter. UN. The middle-aged man nodded gravely. We are indeed helpless before the illness the princess is suffering from, but just today, a physician from a Tier 1 kingdom has delivered us a plausible treatment method to verify, Guild leader Meng said. Upon hearing that it was a treatment method from a Tier 1 kingdom, the middle-aged man's complexion turned even more awful. Even a 5-star physician of the Myriad Kingdom Alliance was unable to solve the matter. What kind of solution could a measly physician from a Tier 1 kingdom possibly offer? Are you jesting with me? But even though the middle-aged man was infuriated, he didn't say a thing. He simply stared at the duo coldly, waiting silently to see what they had to say. Alliance head, you must be thinking how absurd it must be for us to take the treatment method from a measly Tier 1 kingdom for real. But if you were to see the treatment methods that person sent prior to that, you won't be thinking the same. As though reading the thoughts of the other party, a bitter smile flashed across guild leader Meng's face. That person challenged the Wall of Dilemma, and in a single hour, he solved 19 questions. On top of that, all of the solutions he gave reached the level of perfect. All 19 solutions are at the level of perfect. The middle-aged man was taken aback. Are you certain of this? The Physician Guild's Wall of Dilemma was where all the difficult illnesses uncovered over the years were recorded. One could already be considered as a genius among geniuses if one could solve a question or two on it. To solve 19 at once, and for all of the solutions to be perfect. This meant that the other party's comprehension of the way of medicine had already reached an incredibly high level. Yes. This is the treatment method he proposed for the last question. His idea is extremely novel, and none of us here have ever seen something like this before. Upon recalling that the second princess is afflicted with the same illness, we came over in hopes of trying it. If it's really effective, the princess will be able to recover from her affliction, guild leader Meng said. The middle-aged man hesitated. There wasn't a single person in the world who would be willing to allow his own daughter act as a guinea pig. Other than the method he proposed, we truly can't think of any other solutions. Furthermore, the second princess doesn't have much time left. Thus, I beseech you to give it a try. Guild leader Meng clasped his fist. Those afflicted with innate muscular deficiency were fated to be unable to reach their 20s. The princess was already 19 this year, and her condition was deteriorating with every single passing day. Even if this treatment method was ineffective, it was much better than doing nothing at all. All right. I'll be troubling you then. After a long moment of silence, the middle-aged man closed his eyes and exhaled deeply. If there was any other choice, he would have never allowed his daughter to undergo such risk. Soon, the princess was brought over. Pardon my rudeness. Taking a deep breath, guild leader Meng recalled the treatment method written on the Wall of Dilemma and drove the zhenqi in her body. Woo 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 woo. The wind howled. The strength of a 4-star physician had already surpassed that of Jizuan realm. Even if he didn't come into direct contact with the other party, he was still able to send a surge of zhenqi into the other party's acupoints to clear her trauma. Peng 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 peng. Soon, an immense amount of zhenqi was sent through the other party's acupoints and meridians according to the treatment method detailed on the Wall of Dilemma. Who? Exhaling deeply, guild leader Meng wiped the sweat off his forehead. There was simply too many acupoints and meridians one had to deal with in the treatment method. Furthermore, many of these meridians and acupoints were narrow, and thus, he had to concentrate deeply. It was fortunate that he possessed superior medical skills and a high cultivation, otherwise, a single careless mistake could easily spell the other party's death. I wonder if it's effective. After carrying out the instructions on the treatment method strictly, guild leader Meng glanced at the second princess worriedly. But with just this single glance, his entire body shuddered and his eyeballs were popped out from their sockets. The second princess, who was still lying completely motionless a moment ago, suddenly leaped off the bed and smashed her fist into the ground, causing stone fragments to fly everywhere. Rendered speechless by the sight before them, the other physicians trembled in astonishment as their lower jaws fell to the ground. The middle-aged man stared at the situation with a dumbfounded expression. At this point, he was already on the verge of going insane. His second daughter had been diagnosed with innate muscular deficiency at birth. Pain and suffering followed her as though they were her shadows, and immobility had always been something she had to cope with. Making use of his connections as the most influential person in the Myriad Kingdom Alliance, he had invited the most formidable of physicians from all locations, but all of them were helpless before her affliction. He thought that it would be yet another disappointment. Never in his dreams did he expect that she would really be cured of her affliction this time around. More importantly, shouldn't recovery be a slow process? Shouldn't one start from moving their fingers before walking around? How in the world was she able to leap off the bed right after the treatment was completed, and not to mention, smash through rock with her fist? This was way too exaggerated. Liana, you've recovered? Unable to believe his eyes, the Alliance head asked. Father, I have recovered fully. Furthermore, I feel boundless strength surging through my body. The lady chuckled as she stomped on the ground. Who? A rock tile flew up, and the lady struck the tile with her palm. Peng. Fragments flew around the room. The crowd. For an innate muscular deficiency patient to abruptly become a powerful person with overwhelming muscle strength with just a short treatment. Even if the treatment method was effective, wasn't this way too effective? Guild leader Meng, May I know from which kingdom did the person who presented the treatment method come from? I would like to thank him personally. Seeing her daughter walking around healthily as though an ordinary person, the middle-aged man was so excited that his eyes were gleaming. Yes. He came from a remote Tier 1 kingdom near Shenyuan Conferred Kingdom. Guild leader Meng pondered for a moment before replying. Father, there's no need for you to do so. Since I have recovered, I would like to go out and walk around. I will meet and thank the person who saved me personally. The lady chuckled. All right then. The middle-aged man nodded his head. Naturally, Zhongxian was oblivious to the matters occurring at the Myriad Kingdom Alliance. At this moment, he had already altered his features to take on the appearance of Yang Xian, and he was currently on his way to the Master Teacher Pavilion. After taking a few steps, he suddenly stopped. Wouldn't it be inappropriate for me to meet Jiang Shu like that? Yang Xian, who he was impersonating at, was supposed to be a master teacher ranked above 3-star. Given his standing, if he were to travel all the way to the Master Teacher Pavilion to look for Jiang Shu, he might incur the other party's suspicion instead. He was confident in fooling others, but having taken the Master Teacher examination, he understood how fearsome the eyes of Master Teachers could be. The slightest carelessness might possibly cast doubt upon his identity or even give him away. I should look for Liu Ling and the others and have them bring Jiang Shu over to me. After hesitating for a moment, Zhongxian decided on another course of action. It was perfectly normal for a master teacher of Yang Xian's level to summon his student if he wanted to meet him. It would hurt his prestige instead if he were to head there personally to look for the other party. As Zhongshi's students, Zhao Ya and the others were considered as celebrities in the capital. As such, it wasn't too easy for him to find their residence. Looks like that fellow Bai Chan at least knows how he should act. Upon seeing the residence, Zhongxian chuckled. He immediately knew that his threat was effective. Otherwise, it would surely be impossible for Liu Ling, Zhao Ya, and the others to find such a huge residence in the vicinity of the Master Teacher Pavilion. After ascertaining the location, Zhongxian walked over. Soon, he was already standing at the entrance. Old Master, you're back. Just as Zhongxian was thinking about how he should explain his identity to the guards to enter, Sun Qiong suddenly appeared and welcomed him. The latter was so agitated that the fats on his face were bouncing around vigorously. Yuan. Sun Qiong had appeared at a timely moment, saving Zhongxian of the hassle. Nodding his head, he walked into the residence. Old Master, I heard from the young master that you're coming as well. I thought that it will take a while longer before you arrive here. Sun Qiong spoke agitatedly as the duo walked along the corridor of the residence. Bai Chan's ability to accomplish tasks was indeed splendid. This residence was several times larger than the one Zhongxian rented at Tianxian Kingdom. Teacher. Soon, he arrived at the main hall. After receiving news of Yang Xian's arrival, Liu Ling and the others also hurried over. At this moment, Bai Chan had an anxious look on his face. The person before him was the teacher of Pavilion Master Jiang and Zhongshe. No matter how brazen he might be, he didn't dare to act out of place before him. Yuan. Nodding his head, Zhongxian surveyed the surroundings before frowning. Where are the students of Xian Lad? Bai Chan, Liu Ling, Lu Zun, and Huang Yu were all here. Why were all of his students missing instead? He was currently assuming the identity of Yang Xian, the teacher of their teacher. In other words, their grand teacher. How could they not greet their grand teacher? They were being too impertinent. Liu Ling and the others were just about to speak when flurried footsteps sounded beyond the hall. Liusha, bad news. Zhao Ya has been injured by someone. Please save her. After which, Zheng Yang and the others walked in while supporting Zhao Ya. Chapter 336. Medicinal herbs obtained. Zhao Ya's injury was far more severe than they expected. If not for her resilient physical constitution, she might not have even survived the journey back. Liu Ling didn't expect someone to end up so severely injured on a trip to the academy. Shocked, he hurriedly went up to them. What happened? She was injured by a vile woman. Liusha, please save her, Zheng Yang said. Yuan. After taking a look, Liu Ling heaved a sigh of relief. Her Zhenqi is in an erratic state, having suffered violent tremors. It isn't a serious problem, she should recover after half a month of recuperation. Half a month? This won't do. She has to duel with that woman once more 3 days later. Taken aback, Zheng Yang was about to plead with Liu Shi to do something about the matter when the latter waved his hands and clasped his fist toward Yang Shi. This is your grand teacher, Yang Shi. Hurry up and greet him. Grand teacher? Yang Shi? Only at this moment did Zheng Yang and the others notice the middle-aged man who was sitting at the center of the room. Yang Shi was a man who had produced innumerable miracles in Tianqian Kingdom. But more important than that, their teacher was his direct disciple. They had heard of the other party's legends, but they never had the chance to meet him. Upon hearing Liu Shi's words, they trembled in shock, hurriedly kneeled on the floor, and bowed deeply. Grand student Zhao Ya, Zheng Yang, Wang Ying, Liu Yang, Yuan Dao, pays respect to grand teacher, Yuan. Zhongxian nodded his head. Then, with a frown, he turned to Zhao Ya and said, "What's wrong?" He didn't expect that someone would actually dare to beat up Zhao Ya when he had barely left for just a single day. Who in the world had such guts so as to lay their hands on his student? Reporting to grand teacher, "My injuries are a result of a loss to another in a fair duel. It's only due to my lacking cultivation that such a situation arose," Zhao Ya explained. A fair duel? Zhongxian frowned. If she lost in a fair duel, it could only mean to say that she was lacking as compared to the other party. Even as her teacher, it wasn't appropriate for him to stand up for her such a situation. "Come over." Zhongxian beckoned. "Yes." Zhao Ya walked forward. Placing his finger on the other party's pulse, he sent a surge of pure zhenqi through the latter's body via her meridians. Pilipala. Under the nourishment of the heaven's path zhenqi, Zhao Ya's erratic zhenqi gradually calmed down, and her wounds healed at a speed visible to the eye. "Thank you, grand teacher, for treating me." Feeling strength returning to her body, Zhao Ya's eyes gleamed in excitement. Their grand teacher was indeed as incredible as the rumors put him out to be. With such a casual action, not only did the other party manage to heal her injuries, he seemed to have triggered her cultivation as well. At the current moment, Zhao Ya suddenly felt that an urge to achieve a breakthrough. Incredible. Upon seeing this sight, Liu Ling's admiration toward Yang Shi soared once more. He could tell that Zhao Ya's injury was a result of her forcefully tapping into her strength, overexerting herself, thus resulting in a backlash. Her internal organs had been jolted, and her zhenqi had been dissipated forcefully. It wasn't really a huge matter, but it would take at least half a month for her to recover fully. Yet, Yang Shi managed to heal her completely just by placing a finger on her pulse for a few breaths. His means were truly unfathomable. If not for witnessing the sight personally, he would have never thought of this to be possible. "What do you mean by dueling with someone else 3 days later?" After waving his hands to show that it wasn't a huge matter, Zhongxian suddenly recalled Zheng Yang's words and frowned. What was with these little fellows? Why were they always pitting themselves against others, arranging duels even? Reporting to grand teacher, "We were outside strolling when we heard a woman publicly sullying the reputation of our teacher. Unable to tolerate it, Zhao Ya stepped forth and challenged her to a duel to uphold our teacher's honor. Who could have known that the other party wasn't weak, and Zhao Ya was eventually beaten into such a state?" Before Zhao Ya could reply, Yuan Dao had already opened his mouth. Upon hearing his words, the crowd was taken aback. Most master teachers detested seeing their own students causing trouble. Picking a fight with another was already a folly in itself. Yet, they were still unwilling to admit their mistakes and even complained so brazenly. Zhong Shi might still be willing to overlook it, but to utter such words before a master teacher whose rank was likely to have exceeded 3-star. There was no doubt that the other party would be displeased. In the worst-case scenario, Zhong Shi might even suffer a severe reprimand from the latter. Knowing this, everyone rolled their eyes at Yuan Dao. They were all nervous that Yang Shi would get angry. "Sullying the reputation of your teacher?" Yang Shi's eyebrows shot up. "Not bad, a student should indeed uphold the honor of his teacher." "You all did well." "Did well?" They thought that they would have to suffer a severe lashing, But Yang Shi ended up praising them instead. Everyone was stunned, and even Liu Shi couldn't help but stagger. Did this mean that he was encouraging them to fight with others? The ideology that this teacher of his had was way too extreme, wasn't it? However, it is shameful to get beaten up when you were the one who challenged the other party to a duel. Zhong Xian harumphed. Actually, Zhao Yue didn't lose out to her in terms of cultivation. It was just that the other party's battle techniques were too strong. Zheng Yang hesitated for a moment before speaking. In truth, the other party won only due to her superior battle techniques. Tianwu Kingdom was a Tier 1 kingdom, whereas Tianxian Kingdom was an unranked kingdom. Given their different ranks, there was a world of difference in the battle techniques available in the two kingdoms as well. It was already an incredible feat for Zhao Yue to withstand the other party's moves for so long. Battle techniques. Only at this moment did Zhong Xian recall that he had never imparted Zhao Yue any battle technique before. He had imparted Wang Ying the Heaven's Path leg art and Heaven's Path movement art, Zheng Yang the Heaven's Path spear art, and Liu Yang the Heaven's Path fist art. After awakening the unique constitutions of Yuan Dao and Zhao Yue, he didn't impart them any battle technique. It was no wonder why they would suffer a huge disadvantage when battling others. Since your teacher is currently taking the 2-star master teacher examination, I will impart you a battle technique on his behalf. Are you willing to learn it? Thus, Zhong Xian turned to the lady before him and asked. I am willing. Hearing that Grand Teacher was going to impart her a battle technique personally, Zhao Yue hurriedly clasped her fist and bowed. What a joke. This was the teacher of her teacher. The battle technique he was going to impart her was definitely incredibly profound. Since you've been using a sword since young, I'll impart you a sword art. After contemplating for a moment, Zhong Xian said. However, my sword art is sharp. You've just gotten injured, so it's not suitable for you to cultivate for the time being. You should just rest for today. I'll impart the sword art to you tomorrow. Even though Zhao Yue had learned some kicking and punching battle techniques, those weren't her expertise. Her true specialty lies in swordsmanship instead, which she had been learning from young. Thus, she would be most suited to learn a sword art. Yes. Zhao Yue nodded. She had just gotten injured, and she was indeed not in a good condition to be learning a formidable sword art at the moment. Only when in her top condition would she be able to learn better and bring out greater might from the sword art. Alright, you should rest for now. Sun Qiong, send someone to the Master Teacher Pavilion to get Jiang Shu over. Tell him that I have something I need him for. After dealing with Zhao Yue's matter, Zhong Xian waved his hands and dismissed them. He had browsed through many books in the Master Teacher Pavilion, and there were a substantial number of them on swordsmanship. However, those techniques were rather profound, and it might be difficult for Zhao Yue to master them if he were to impart them straight. Thus, Zhong Xian decided to learn them for himself and test their might before modifying it to suit her. If he didn't attempt to comprehend every aspect of the sword art before imparting them to Zhao Yue, it might affect her fundamentals, thus causing potential problems in the future. Sun Qiong moved swiftly, and in less than an hour, Pavilion Master Jiang was already before him. Looking at Yang Shi, who was seated at the main seat in the hall, he excitedly kneeled down and bowed. Jiang Shu pays respect to teacher. Not only did the person before him help him to tame a powerful savage beast, the other party even imparted him a cultivation technique to clear away the trauma in his body. As such, he was filled with gratitude for the other party. There are 2 medicinal herbs that I need, gold leaf spark twig and 9 worms flower. Do you have them? Cutting straight to the point, Zhong Xian asked impassively. Gold leaf spark twig and 9 worms flower? I do happen to have them. With a flick of his wrist, 2 medicinal herbs appeared on Jiang Shu's palm. These were the medicinal herbs that Zhong Xian was looking for. UN. Taking the medicinal herbs, Zhong Xian waved his hands. I won't take advantage of you. How much do these 2 medicinal herbs cost? I'll have Sun Qiong pass you the money later on. I am heavily indebted to teacher. It's just 2 medicinal herbs. Please treat it as a filial gesture of mine. Jiang Shu hurriedly said. Without Yang Shi's cultivation technique, it was just a matter of time before his trauma acted up. His life would have been constantly at risk. But now, not only did he manage to tame a powerful savage beast, he even managed to clear up his trauma. For this, he would be willing to even run through a mountain of flames for the other party. In comparison to that, 2 medicinal herbs were truly nothing. It was this kind of earnest gratitude that induced the formation of a golden page in the library of Heaven's Path. Fate brought us together, that is the only reason why I helped you. I won't take advantage of you. Zhong Xian frowned. With an imposing tone, he said, I will pay you however much the cost. Seeing his teacher insist on the payment, Jiang Shu was impressed. Did you see that? This is the true magnanimity of a master teacher. It was impossible for one to not respect him. Yes. Nodding his head, Jiang Shu rummaged through his memory before replying, I got these 2 medicinal herbs from the great herb king back then. As both of their maturity exceeds 100 years, they are worth a total of 20 million gold coins. 20 million, cough cough. Zhong Xian had intended to pass the money to the other party grandly, but upon hearing those words, he nearly coughed blood and fainted. 20 million gold coin? The heck! Even if he were to sell himself, he wouldn't be able to earn this sum of money. He thought that it would just be a few million gold coins, that was why he offered to pay for it so generously. Never in his dreams did he expect these 2 medicinal herbs to be even more expensive than all of the other herbs added up together. What the hell could these herbs be to cost so much money? All he wanted to do was to accept a student, raise his strength, and earn his trust. To think that just doing so would result in his bankruptcy. This was way too darned. Money is just material possession. As a master teacher, thinking about money all day long will affect your mental resilience. With a reddened face, Zhong Xian waved his hands grandly. Jiang Shu was baffled. I said that there was no need to pay, but you insisted on it. So why are you saying that thinking about money will affect one's mental resilience now? Seeing the bizarre expression on the other party's face, Zhong Xian coughed awkwardly. Waving his hands casually, he said, you should condition yourself well for the next few days. I'll find some time to help you achieve a breakthrough in your cultivation. Treat it as the payment for these 2 medicinal herbs. He had promised the other party to pay him, only to realize that he had insufficient money. As the unfathomable expert Yang Shi, he couldn't afford to lose his reputation over such a minor matter. Thus, he could only promise the other party some other benefits. Help me achieve a breakthrough? Just as Jiang Shu was curious as to why his teacher would have such a sudden change in attitude, he heard those words and his excitement then instantaneously erased all doubts that were on his mind. He hurriedly kneeled to the floor and kowtowed. Thank you, teacher. He had been stuck in Zongsha realm pinnacle for many years. If he could achieve a breakthrough and reach half Zhizuan, his lifespan and strength would be increased significantly. You can leave now. Having collected all of the medicinal herbs, Zhong Xian was anxious to return to the academy. Thus, he bided everyone farewell. I still have matters to attend to, so I'll be leaving first. I'll come by once more tomorrow. Saying so, Zhong Xian stepped out of the residence. After leaving the residence, he walked into an isolated alley. Looking around to ensure that there was no one around, he reverted back to the appearance of Liu Laroche and headed straight back to Qianwu Academy. The residence that Bai Chan acquired was right between the Master Teacher Pavilion and Qianwu Academy. Thus, it didn't take him too long to return back to his classroom. However, before he could enter the classroom, Meng Dao rushed up to him and said in a fluster, Teacher, you're back. Please save Senior. She's injured. Mu Xueqing is injured. Zhong Xian was taken aback. Chapter 337, Raising Lu Chong's strength in less than a day after leaving his students, Zhao Ya was injured by someone. Then, in less than 4 hours since leaving the classroom, Mu Xueqing was injured as well. Wasn't this too coincidental? Was the god of misfortune lingering around him? Yes. Meng Dao's face was flushed. Bring me to her. Shaking his head, Zhong Xian followed him into the classroom. Upon entering the classroom, he saw Mu Xueqing leaning against the wall of the classroom with a pale face. Walking up to her, Zhong Xian took a look and he suddenly felt dismayed. Indeed. He couldn't discern anything at all. Zhao Yue was cultivating a cultivation technique he imparted, and the technique could be considered as an offshoot of Heaven's Path divine art. Furthermore, he had been with her for a significant period of time, thus even without knowing the illness, he was able to cure her easily. On the other hand, Mu Xueqing was a student he had just accepted today. As such, he didn't have a clear idea of her physical condition and thus, was unable to see through the root of her affliction in a glance. If he couldn't even discern the root of her problem, how could he possibly treat her? Execute a battle technique. After hesitating for a moment, Zhongxian could only decide on the crudest course of action. Yes. Even though Mu Xueqing was perplexed over her teacher's instructions, she still nodded out of trust for the other party. Clenching her fist tightly, her arm shot out swiftly. Her offense caused the book of her in the Library of Heaven's Path to be refreshed. After taking a look, Zhongxian heaved a sigh of relief. This lass had forcefully used battle techniques beyond her and injured her meridians. This wasn't a big problem for him. With a flick of his fingers, a few silver needles appeared and flew toward several parts of her body. A moment later, Mu Xueqing felt a surge of comfort gushing through her body. The injuries she had sustained from forcefully executing battle techniques beyond her had disappeared without a trace. Sensing the change in her body, Mu Xueqing widened her eyes in disbelief. Her father was an apothecary who often formulated pills to treat the traumas of others. She knew that injuries caused by forcefully using battle techniques beyond one's capability were hard to resolve. A single mistake in the treatment could potentially cause one's cultivation to be crippled. Yet, why did this complicated problem seem so easy in the hands of Liu Laroche? I apologize for adding to teacher's troubles. Mu Xueqing understood that Liu Laoche's means far surpassed that of ordinary physicians or apothecaries, and her admiration for the latter deepened. It's nothing. How did you get injured? Zhongxian asked doubtfully. Senior got. Meng Dao was about to explain when Mu Xueqing raised her hand and interrupted. I was trying out battle techniques and forcefully used battle techniques beyond my cultivation out of my negligence. Teacher, sorry for worrying you. Zhongxian could tell that Mu Xueqing was hiding something, but since the latter was unwilling to talk about it, Zhongxian decided not to ask any further. All right. If there's nothing else, Lu Chong, you stay behind. As for the rest, you should return and rest for the day. Teacher. Mu Xueqing hesitated. Is there something? Zhongxian turned to look at her. Teacher, can you impart me a battle technique? Mu Xueqing asked with a reddened face. She was the one who tried to turn the entire class against him at the very start. Thus, she felt embarrassed asking the other party to impart her a battle technique at this moment. However, she knew that if she didn't learn a new battle technique, it would be impossible for her to triumph over that lady. Her father's battle technique was too powerful for her. If she didn't execute it well, she would sustain heavy injuries just like how she did earlier. More importantly, it was impossible to become adept at a battle technique without several years of effort. She was going to fight against that person 3 days later. If she were to ask this of anyone else, she would never make it in time. Thus, she could only pin her hopes on Liu Laroche, who had created miracle after miracle. Battle technique. Zhongxian turned to look at her doubtfully. What do you want to learn? I specialize in saber, so if possible, I hope that teacher can impart me a saber art. Mu Xueqing said. Saber art. Zhongxian was surprised. Ladies tended to prefer swords due to their lightness and elegance which complemented their disposition. Yet, this lass favored sabers instead. This was something that was beyond Zhongxian's expectations. All right, I'll think about a suitable saber art and impart one to you tomorrow. You should leave for now. Zhongxian nodded. All right. Mu Xueqing bowed in gratitude before leaving with Meng Dao and the others. Senior, why didn't you allow me to say it? After leaving the classroom, Meng Dao couldn't hold himself back and immediately questioned. She obviously got injured while trying to uphold Liu Laoche's honor, so why did she stop him from saying it? Say. What do you intend to say? That I got injured while sparring with Zhongshi's student. If I were to say so, Liu Laroche would most probably drag me to the other party to apologize. Mu Xueqing harumphed. This. Meng Dao froze. The standing and influence of a master teacher mustn't be underestimated. A genius like Zhongshe wasn't someone that an ordinary teacher like Liu Laroche could stand up against. If Liu Laroche were to find out that his students had conflicts with other party, it was highly possible that he might drag Senior there to apologize. It's not a big deal for me to lower my head and apologize, but I earnestly feel that Liu Laroche isn't inferior to Zhongshe in any way. In fact, I think he is even more capable than the latter. How can there be such a huge difference between their reputations? I must defeat that fellow and bring honor to Liu Laoche's name. Determination gleamed in Mu Xueqing's eyes. How could Liu Laroche, despite his capability, remain as an unknown figure in the capital? Clearly, it was due to the lack of a suitable platform for him to display his prowess. The duel with Zhongshe's student was an excellent platform to prove Liu Laoche's ability. As long as she wins against the other party, Liu Laoche's name would be known throughout the entire capital instantly. Everyone would know that even though Liu Laroche wasn't a master teacher, his capability wasn't inferior to one. I agree with you. Meng Dao nodded his head in agreement. Indeed. If Senior were to report this matter to Liu Laroche, it would be impossible to continue on with the duel. If so, how could she bring honor to Liu Laoche's name? How could she make everyone understand that he is an incredible teacher? Of course, he also knew that she was only trying to justify her actions. That wasn't her primary aim at all. Mu Xueqing was a mini tyrant in the academy, having chased away several teachers. Someone had crossed her path and even wounded her. If she didn't get her revenge and make the other party apologize to her, she wouldn't be able to let this matter rest. All right, don't let Liu Laroche know about this matter. I'll teach whoever who dares to babble to him a lesson. Mu Xueqing glared at her juniors menacingly. Yes. Everyone hurriedly nodded their heads. We won't say anything, but what if Lu Chong? Meng Dao suddenly thought of something and pointed toward the classroom. Lu Chong was currently alone with Liu Laroche in the classroom. Even if they were to seal their mouth, it would be for naught if Lu Chong revealed the matter. Lu Chong. That fellow is reluctant to even open his mouth. Do you think it is possible for him to babble to Liu Laroche? Mu Xueqing rolled her eyes. That's true. Meng Dao scratched his head awkwardly. In the 2 years that they had been with Lu Chong, the latter had spoken less than 3 sentences. How could he possibly start gossiping about this matter? And just like they had guessed, Lu Chong didn't say anything. At this moment, he was staring cautiously at Liu Laroche. The request that Liu Laroche raised had put him in a difficult position. Take off your clothes. His teacher's voice sounded. Take off my clothes. Scratching his head in embarrassment, Lu Chong was at a loss. The cultivation of poison body is extremely difficult. For that, the physical body enhancement technique that I taught you has to reach major accomplishment at minimum. You are still lacking in mastery, and I'll have to give you a boost. Zhong Xian said. Cultivating the poison body was an extremely difficult and dangerous matter. Otherwise, countless poison masters wouldn't have died in the midst of doing so. Yes. Upon hearing that his teacher was only getting him to strip for cultivation purposes, Lu Chong heaved a sigh of relief. If Zhong Xian were to know what the other party was thinking, he would definitely die of rage. The students nowadays. Do they all mature that early? What in the world is going through their minds? Soon, Lu Chong took off his clothes and lay horizontally on a bench in the classroom. Frowning slightly, Zhong Xian flicked his wrist and a few silver needles appeared on his palm. With a slight movement, the silver needles immediately pierced into Lu Chong's acupoints. The pure heaven's path Zhenqi started flowing through his body. Lu Chong's talent was nothing short of ordinary. Given his current cultivation speed, it would take at least 2 days or so before he could reach major accomplishment for the simplified version of Heaven's Path Golden Body. After reinforcing his cultivation, around 4 days would have already passed. The silver needles seemed lodge into Lu Chong's body in a certain pathway, heading upward until it eventually reached the cap of his head. Boom! Under the guidance of Zhong Xian's silver needles, zhenqi gushed into Lu Chong's head. In that instant, Lu Chong felt as if an explosion had occurred in his head, as though he had broken through a bottleneck. Pishue realm. I have actually reached Pishue realm? He instantly realized that he had broke through Dingli realm pinnacle, reaching Pishue realm. Don't move, it's not over yet. Feeling the agitated trembling of Lu Chong's body, Zhong Xian's eyebrows shot up. With a flick of his hands, the medicinal herbs that Zhong Xian obtained from the physician guild appeared in his hands. With a sudden burst of zhenqi, he reduced all of those medicinal herbs into powder. Tzzzzzzzzzz. The powder melded together, and a reaction immediately occurred. Swiftly, it morphed into an extremely toxic substance. With a grasping action, the silver needles across Lu Chong's body flew back and plunged into contact with the toxic powder. In an instant, the entire needle turned black. Then, with another flick, these poison needles flew back into Lu Chong's body. The lethal poison flowed through the silver needle and seeped into the Lu Chong's body. An excruciating pain several times greater than that of the previous one struck him. His face immediately paled, and unable to hold himself back, he yelled in agony. Who? After striking all of the silver needles back onto the other party's body, Zhong Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Wiping the sweat off his forehead, he kept the remaining medicinal powder back into his storage ring. He was done conducting the first round of poison tempering. Whether the other party was able to pull through would depend on his mental fortitude. If he failed to hold on, he would fall into death's embrace. But if he held on, he would be able to metamorphose from a cocoon into a butterfly, becoming one of the strongest experts in Tianwu Kingdom. Chapter 338, Zongsha Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art. As the lethal poison seeped into his bloodstream, Lu Chong found himself reaching the limits of his sanity. The intense pain that assaulted his mind was too hard for him to endure. Father, mother, sister, brother. Many figures flashed across his head, as though attempting to summon him over to the other side. A powerful force threatened to pull his soul into the eternal darkness, a place where he would never be able to return from. No, I can't faint now. The moment I give in, teacher's hard work would be in vain. How can I face father, mother, and the others like that? Clenching his fists tightly, he yelled tenaciously within. For 2 years, he had played the role of a mute. It wasn't because he didn't want to speak of the matter, but his enemy was simply too strong and influential. He didn't want to be killed before he became sufficiently strong to exact vengeance. He was at the age where bustle posed an irresistible attraction to him. Yet, he forcefully held himself back and stayed away from social interactions, as though a reticent old man. This had caused great stress to weigh on his heart. Yet, why did he still continue to push on? It was because that resentment in his heart didn't allow him to rest. His father, mother, sisters, brothers. His entire family consisting of 137 people died in agony. If not for his coincidental absence during that tragedy, he might have been reduced to a corpse as well. He thought that his vengeance would be a hopeless cause, especially given his subpar talents. But Liu Laroche had presented a chance to him. He mustn't let go of it. Persevere. I have to persevere on. Howling furiously in his mind, the will that he had tempered over the course of the past 2 years intensified. His drowsiness and weakness abruptly vanished, replaced by tenacity. Not bad. Seeing how the other party was still able to hold on despite the intense pain, Zhong Xian nodded in satisfaction. His evaluation of Lu Chong turned out to be spot on. The latter's mental fortitude was indeed impressive. If he could persevere on with the same tenacity, it was highly likely that he would be able to successfully cultivate the poison body. If so, his strength would be raised tremendously. The effects of the lethal poison will continue on for an entire night. This night will be painful, so find some way to persevere on. Don't worry, you'll soon realize that your suffering isn't in vain. After instructing so, Zhong Xian placed a blanket over Lu Chong and walked out of the classroom. The cultivation for the poison body had already started, and there was no stopping now. Whether Lu Chong could persevere on or not would depend solely on his mental fortitude. No one could help him through this. Since Zhongxian was of no use here, he decisively left the room. After leaving the room, he realized that the sun had already set. Thus, he found a restaurant and ate some food. I have to impart a sword art and saber art to Zhao Ya and Mu Xueqing tomorrow respectively. I should give it a try first. He had promised the two ladies that he would impart them battle techniques, but the current him was incapable of utilizing either weapon. Thus, he had to quickly cultivate and master these two battle techniques so that he could impart them well. I should begin with swordsmanship. Zhongxian's consciousness delved in the library of Heaven's Path and he started browsing through the sword-related battle techniques he saw in the Master Teacher Pavilion. Correct. Soon, a complete sword art secret manual was formed. Sword, the sovereign of the 100 weapons. Nimble and flexible, as though a snake or a phantom. A complete cultivation method of a sword art was detailed in the book. Casually picking up a tree branch from the ground, Zhongxian drove his zhenqi according to the formula written in the book. However, a short moment later, he stopped and frowned. That's not right. There are still some flaws in the sword art. It isn't complete yet. The battle techniques in the Master Teacher Pavilion were at a higher level than those in Tianxian Kingdom. Even the weakest of them was at least of mortal pinnacle, and many of them were at phantom low tier. The more profound a battle technique was, the rarer and more valuable it was. There were only several dozen of sword art manuals in the entire library. With this quantity, it was impossible to even form a single perfect move after compiling all of the correct portions together, less to say, a Heaven's Path battle technique. Forcefully cultivating this kind of incomplete sword art might cause one's cultivation to go berserk. Looking at the incomplete sword art manual, Zhongxian felt dismayed. He thought that he would be able to form Heaven's Path sword art with just the sword art manuals in the Master Teacher Pavilion. From the looks of it, he was underestimating the matter. It was fortunate that he didn't impart this sword art to Zhao Ya. If he did, the latter might have probably died from cultivating this technique before she could dueling with her opponent. Forget it, I should take a look at saber art manuals first. Holding back his dismay, he turned his attention to the saber art manuals. Soon, the frustration on his face deepened. Just like for sword art, there were two little saber art manuals here as well. It was impossible for a complete move to be formed with this meager quantity. Other people required profound secret manuals for their battle technique, but Zhongxian was different. All he needed was quantity. As for quality, it was of negligible difference. As the greatest occupation in the world, master teachers didn't think highly of ordinary battle techniques. As such, they didn't bother collecting them. While this wasn't anything much to other master teachers, to Zhongxian, this was extremely bad news. Where in the world can I find fundamental manuals on saber art and sword art? After organizing his thoughts, Zhongxian scratched his head in frustration. Right. How could I forgot that I am at Tianwu Academy? There must be quite a few fundamental saber art and sword art manuals here. Zhongxian's eyes suddenly lit up. It might be difficult to find battle technique secret manuals elsewhere, but this wasn't an issue for Tianwu Academy. As a school for cultivators, there must be plenty of such items on the campus. Thus, Zhongxian grabbed a nearby student, asked for the location of the teacher's library, and started walking over with widened strides. Soon, he arrived in a huge vault filled with books. After flashing his identity token, he walked into the room. As expected of the location where the secret manuals of the academy were stored, even though it wasn't as large as the Master Teacher Pavilion's library, it was still of formidable scale. Cultivation technique and battle technique manuals of all kinds filled the shelves, and in just a single glance, it was clear that the number of books definitely numbered beyond 1,000,000. There were many books on the other occupations in the Master Teacher Pavilion, but over here, the books were mostly cultivation technique and battle technique manuals. The books on the other occupations numbered in the minority. Cultivation techniques beneath Zhongsha realm were useless to Zhongxian. Thus, he went straight for the sword art manuals. Soon, he found the shelves where the sword art manuals were held. There were more than several thousand books on those shelves. He quickly collected them into the library of Heaven's Path. Compile. This time, The sword art that was compiled was in perfect condition, thus safe for cultivation. Instead of testing it out immediately, Zhongxian went to the section on saber art and collected the respective books into the Library of Heaven's Path as well. Chem. Zongsha Realm Cultivation Technique. Walking along the shelves, Zhongxian collected a few other battle technique manuals when he suddenly saw the books on a row of shelves and his eyes lit up. To think that there would be Zongsha Realm Cultivation Technique manuals here. In Hongtian Academy, Zongsha Realm secret manuals were incomparably valuable. As such, they were placed in an isolated vault and only elders were qualified to browse through them. Zhongxian didn't expect Zongsha Realm Cultivation Technique manuals to be accessible to all teachers in Tianwu Academy. Casually picking up a book, Zhongxian browsed through it. Soon, a bitter smile spread across his face. He thought that Tianwu Academy was truly practicing equality in education, granting both elders and ordinary teacher access to the same resources. But after flipping through a book, he realized that it was just wishful thinking on his part. Even though those were indeed Zongsha Realm Cultivation Technique manuals, no doubt about that, those were the most ordinary and simplest cultivation technique. In terms of quality, they were around mortal low tier. Using these cultivation techniques, even if one was incredibly talented, it would take at least a decade or so before one would be able to advance a single realm. It seemed like the truly incredible cultivation techniques were still kept in an isolated vault. Those that were available here were the useless ones. It was a waste to throw it away, but no one cultivated them anyway. Even so, this was a huge treasure trove to Zhongxian. Sliding his finger across those manuals, he swiftly collected them all in his mind. Correct. He had collected quite a few Zongsha Realm Cultivation Technique manuals back when he was at Red Lotus City. Adding all of these into the mix as well, the Library of Heaven's Path immediately formed the Zongsha Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art. I should go out first before starting to cultivate. Holding back his urge to cultivate on the spot, he strolled around the library and collected some other useful-looking books before leaving. Returning back to the classroom, Zhongxian went over to examine Lu Chong's condition, and upon seeing that the latter was still trying his best to withstand the poison, he nodded his head in approval. After which, he walked into the small classroom and sat down cross-legged. Flipping open the Zongsha Realm Heaven's Path Divine Art, he closed his eyes and started cultivating. Tzzzzzzzzzzzz. Along with the flow of his zhenqi, spiritual energy in the air began to gush into his body, flowing through his acupoints and meridians. UN. After cultivating for a moment, Zhongxian abruptly opened his eyes. His cultivation didn't feel as smooth as before. In the past, achieving breakthroughs felt as easy as simply drinking a cup of water. But now, he felt starved instead. It was as if he was trying his best to gobble down whatever that was before him, but whatever that was before him was simply insufficient to satiate his appetite. It's spiritual energy. After pondering for a moment, Zhongxian came to a conclusion. The first 7 realms of a fighter, Jushi, Dantian, Zhenqi, Pigu, Dingli, Pishue, Tongxian. The cultivation of these realms didn't require much spiritual energy. For example, in Pishue realm, one only had to open up one's acupoints to raise one's strength. In Tongxian realm, one only had to connect all of one's meridians together. In Dingli realm, one only had to temper one's physical body. However, it was different once one reached Zongsha realm. The accumulation of spiritual energy and storage of zhenqi became the priority instead. Every slightest increase in one's cultivation realm required a vast supply of spiritual energy. Using an analogy, a Zongsha realm cultivator's dantian was like a pond, whereas the spiritual energy in the air was like a stream flowing into the pond. If one wanted to fill the pond, naturally, the greater the flow, the better it was. Cultivating a high-tier cultivation technique would cause this stream to expand. With Heaven's Path Divine Art, Zhongxian's stream was no different from a ridiculously wide river. Naturally, the volume of water that could flow through it at any given moment was much greater than a small stream. But of course, that was only if there was sufficient water being supplied to the river in the first place. Without sufficient water, no matter how vast the river was, the rate at which it filled the pond wouldn't be much faster than a stream. That was to say, while there was no problem with the Heaven's Path divine art, due to the lacking spiritual energy in the environment, Zhongxian would be unable to leverage the advantages of his cultivation technique to the maximum extent. In other words, Zhongxian was no longer able to raise his cultivation by an entire realm in just 2 hours like he did in the past. Given how thin the spiritual energy in the air is, it will take at least 3 to 5 months before I reach Zhongsha realm pinnacle. Zhongxian thought in dismay. The prowess of Heaven's Path divine art was incredible, but it had no way of making up for the lacking spiritual energy in the air. Given the current rate of absorption, it would take at least 3 to 5 months before he reached the peak of Zhongsha realm. Of course, if others were to know of his thoughts, they would definitely raise their pitchforks and light their torches. Reaching Zhongsha realm pinnacle within 3 to 5 months is already an incredible feat, you know? To be unsatisfied with such speed. Forget it. I should go to the Apothecary Guild tomorrow to see if I can find any pills harnessing spiritual energy. With the help of such pills, I should be able to advance my cultivation realm faster. Knowing that it would be terribly inefficient to cultivate normally, Zhongxian chose to put the matter aside for now. The lack of spiritual energy in the environment was a huge problem to Zhongxian, but this problem could be alleviated by consuming pills. The Apothecary Guild had many pills that harnessed concentrated spiritual energy within them. Thus, Zhongxian turned his attention away from the Zhongsha realm cultivation technique to the sword art manuals and saber art manuals in the library of Heaven's Path. 4 hours later. Casually grabbing a sword from the weapon rack in the classroom, Zhongxian drove his zhenqi according to the formula in his head and flicked the sword in his hand lightly. SSS-la. The zhenqi Zhongxian imbued into the sword formed a blinding radiance on the tip of the sword. And with a light slash, a sword qi flew for more than a dozen meters before coming to a stop. A narrow but deep cut appeared on the hard ground. Dantian refers to a place in the abdomen. Usually, this is where the core of a cultivator's energy come from, somewhat similar to how our blood has to be pumped from our heart. In Fighter 2 Dantian realm, what one does is to open up this Dantian so that they could accumulate zhenqi. Sword qi refers to a visible emanation of a slash from the edge of the sword. Weapons, battle techniques and cultivation techniques follow the same power system. Mortal, phantom, spirit, saint, god. Each level can be divided into low tier, intermediate tier, high tier, and pinnacle. There are exceptions, especially when it comes to the higher tiers due to the massive difference in prowess between tiers. For example, there are additional tiers between ranks. For a battle technique, there is the concept of mastery as well, i.e. how adept you are at using the technique. The higher the rank of the battle technique, the harder it is to gain mastery in it. Mastery is divided into novice, initiate, minor accomplishment, major accomplishment, and consummation. Chapter 339 Lu Chong's Deep Grudge 1. Zhongxian's eyes lit up. He immediately picked up a saber and attempted a light swing as well. Just like with the sword, an imposing white emanation flew forth the saber, leaving behind a deep cut on the ground. As expected of a battle technique compiled from high-tier battle techniques, these two techniques are much stronger than the Heaven's Path fist art and Heaven's Path spear art. Zhongxian was satisfied with the force of the sword qi and saber qi. After reinforcing his understanding of the techniques, Zhongxian finally heaved a sigh of relief and a slight smile crept onto his face. After I simplify these techniques and impart them on to Zhao Ya and Mu Xueqing, they would surely be able to emerge victorious regardless of who their opponents are. He had no idea who Zhao Ya's opponent was, but he knew the primary reason behind Zhao Ya's loss was due to her disadvantage in terms of battle techniques. Once she learns this sword art, no matter how powerful her opponent may be, it would be impossible for the other party to withstand her attacks. Zhongxian was certain that there was no battle technique in Tianwu Kingdom that could surpass those created through the library of Heaven's Path. As for Mu Xueqing, even though she didn't say a thing, it couldn't be any clearer to Zhongxian that her injury originated from a brawl. After imparting her this saber art, she should be able to protect herself from any opponent. Mu Xueqing returned to her residence. Recalling what that had happened today, she couldn't help but doubt that everything was just a dream. Even though she had witnessed Liu Laosh's capability with her own eyes, she still found it way too unbelievable. With just a few casual pointers from him, all of the students in the class achieved a breakthrough in their cultivation, and the problem of the pill poison that had accumulated in her body was resolved. On top of that, he even declared that he would grant Lu Chong the strength rivaling that of a Tongxian realm cultivator within 10 days. Even a master teacher wouldn't be able to rival those feats. Walking into the living room, she stretched her back and prepared to return back to her room to rest. But just then, her father suddenly rushed into the living room with an agitated look on his face. "Chinga, you're back. I've good news for you." "What's wrong, father?" Her father, Apothecary Mu, had always maintained his composure regardless of the situation. What in the world could have happened for him to get so agitated? "There's a cure for you." Apothecary Mu's eyes were gleaming with excitement. "A cure?" Mu Xueqing was perplexed. "A cure? It wasn't like she was terminally ill. What did a cure for you mean? You have been consuming pills since young to augment the speed of your cultivation. Even though you managed to improve swiftly, due to your physical constitution and the nature of your cultivation technique, a significant amount of pill poison has accumulated in your body, thus making it extremely difficult for you to advance to higher realm. I only managed to notice this problem last year, and by then, it was already too late." Apothecary Mu looked at her daughter apologetically. "In order to solve your trauma, I've visited the Physician Guild and consulted them on your problem. However, none of them had a feasible solution for your problem. Even guild leader Mu Hong is helpless before this matter, and he even inscribed the question on the wall of dilemma. I thought that it would be nigh impossible to find a cure for your problem, but today, an incredible physician appeared, and he solved all of the questions on the wall of dilemma with perfect treatment method. In other words, there's a cure for your pill poison." Apothecary Mu's eyes were glowing. He had always felt guilty to his daughter over the issue of the pill poison, and thus, he had gone to great extents to find a cure to his daughter's affliction. Upon realizing that the new guild leader of the Physician Guild could solve the problem easily, he could no longer hold back his agitation. "Pill poison?" Mu Xueqing blinked. She was just about to say that she had been cured of her pill poison when her father continued speaking. "You don't know how talented this new guild leader is. He solved 19 questions on the wall of dilemma consecutively, achieving a perfect grade for each of them. In the end, he even came up with an answer that even 4-star physicians were incapable of evaluating." Apothecary Mu praised in amazement. Even though he had heard the news from a reliable source, he still found it hard to believe. If not for his friend in the Physician Guild swearing on the matter, he would have surely thought the other party was just pulling his leg. "Ah, right. I heard that. The new guild leader is a teacher in your academy. Help me look into it tomorrow so that I can make some preparations. I'll pay him a visit and beseech him for the treatment method to cure you of your affliction." Apothecary Mu turned to his daughter and said, "There's such a formidable teacher in our academy. What's his name?" Mu Xueqing asked doubtfully. She had heard of the Physician Guild's wall of dilemma as well. To be able to solve 19 questions with a perfect grade, that person was indeed an incredible genius. His feat was in no way inferior to that of master teacher Zhong Xian. But Mu Xueqing knew all of the teachers in the academy, and she was certain that none of them were capable of such a feat after all. How could a person possessing such formidable capability possibly remain unknown? If I recall correctly. Apothecary Mu pondered for a moment. His surname seems to be Liu. Liu. Gudding, Mu Xueqing's heart skipped a beat. A figure suddenly appeared in her mind, and her face flushed in agitation. Staring intently at her father, she asked, "It can't be that his name is Liu Cheng?" This was the name Liu Laroche introduced himself with when he entered the classroom. "That's right, his name is Liu Cheng. He seems to be a new teacher in Tianwu Academy." Recalling the contents of his conversation with his friend, Apothecary Mu nodded. Liu Cheng. Mu Xueqing's widened into large circles, and at that moment, she looked as though she had seen a ghost. Was her teacher a physician too? Not to mention, he actually solved 19 questions on the wall of dilemma and became the new guild leader of the Physician Guild. Even though she had already guessed the answer before her father said anything, she was still astonished when she heard the confirmation. You know this teacher? Great. I'll pay him a visit tomorrow and beseech him to solve your pill poison. Oblivious to his daughter's shock, Apothecary Moo continued speaking excitedly. There's no need to pay him a visit. He has already cured my pill poison affliction. It took a while before Mu Xueqing managed to digest this news. Smiling bitterly, she said. He has already cured you? Surprised, Apothecary Moo swiftly turned to look at his daughter. Yes. Mu Xueqing nodded. Why would he help you? The situation was much too sudden for Apothecary Moo to accept. Given Liu Laosh's standing, there shouldn't be any reason for him to solve his daughter's affliction for free. That's because. Hearing her father's doubt, Mu Xueqing tilted her face upward and a proud expression appeared on her face. He is my teacher. Your teacher? Apothecary Moo was stunned. The same situation was also occurring with Meng Dao and the other students of Liu Laosha. That very night left innumerable people astonished. Waking up from his sleep, Zhong Xian felt revitalized. He had spent the entire night modifying the Heaven's Path Sword Art and Heaven's Path Saber Art for Zhao Ya and Mu Xueqing's usage. The battle techniques created through the Library of Heaven's Path were formidable, but without Heaven's Path Zhenqi to sustain one, not only would one be unable to bring out the full might of the technique, one might even sustain severe injuries from it. Just like a baby swinging a hammer without sufficient strength to wield it, a formidable tool would just hurt oneself. The two ladies would be able to better bring out the might of the battle techniques after Zhong Xian made some modifications to the respective techniques according to their needs. After walking out from the small room, Zhong Xian saw Lu Chong panting heavily on the bench. The latter had managed to survive the first round of torture in cultivating the poison body. Teacher. Upon seeing Liu Laosha, Lu Chong hurriedly clasped his fist. UN. From the very start, Zhong Xian had expected that Lu Chong would be able to tide through the pain. Thus, he wasn't too surprised by the matter. Nodding his head, he smiled. How do you feel? Lu Chong hesitated for a moment before replying, I don't feel anything different from before. I am still at Pishua Realm primary stage. Why didn't my cultivation rise? As soon as the poison started to fade, he immediately took an internal look at his condition. Just like how he was yesterday night, he was still at Pishua Realm primary stage. There wasn't any advancement in his cultivation at all. If not out of trust for Liu Laosha, he would have thought that the pain he suffered yesterday night was for naught. Upon recalling the pain he felt then, he couldn't help but shudder. It was as if he was plunged into the deepest abyss of hell, subjected to the worst tortures that could exist in this world. Many a time he felt that it would be better for him to just let go of everything and give up. If not for the grudge in his heart fueling his determination, he would have surely caved in. There's a strength measuring rock pillar there. You should try hitting it. Zhong Xian smiled lightly. Yes. Even though Lu Chong was perplexed by the instructions, he still nodded his head and walked over to the rock pillar. Clenching his fist, he struck it with all of his might. Wang. The rock pillar trembled, and a line of digits slowly floated into appearance. 44 ding. Pishua Realm Pinnacle. How is this possible? Upon seeing the numbers on the pillar, Lu Chong's body trembled and his eyes widened in shock. He could clearly sense that his cultivation didn't rise at all. How did he manage to achieve a might of 44 ding? This was too scary. A normal Pishua Realm cultivator's strength would only increase by 1 ding for every acupoint opened. Going by that calculation, 44 ding was equivalent to having 40 acupoints opened. However, Lu Chong had only cleared 1 acupoint to date. So, how in the world could he possibly possess such tremendous strength? The strength originates from your physical body. Zhong Xian nodded his head as he explained. He was rather satisfied with the outcome. What the poison body augmented was the might of one's physical body, not one's zhenqi cultivation. Upon reaching a certain level of strength for one's physical body, one could gain the strength to rival zhenqi cultivators. In fact, some of the formidable poison masters were even able to tear Zongsha realm cultivators apart without using their zhenqi at all. By tempering his physical body through lethal poison, In the course of a single night, Lu Chong's strength rose from 5 ding to 44 ding. Seeing the number on the stone pillar, Lu Chong's eyes reddened. Back then, when Liu Laroche said that he would grant him the strength to exact vengeance within 10 days, he still bore some doubts to the other party's words. But now, not even the slightest trace of doubt lingered in his mind. In just a single day, his fighting prowess rose from the level of a Dingli realm primary stage cultivator to a Pishua realm pinnacle cultivator. This rate of growth was completely unheard of. Even though Lu Chong was experiencing it firsthand, he couldn't help but doubt if it was all just a dream. Thank you, teacher. All that was left in his mind at this moment was awe and gratitude for the young Liu Laroche. So, can you tell me about your matter now? Zhong Xian asked. Lu Chong clenched his fists tightly. Remember, you are Liu Cheng's student, my student. Even if your enemy is the emperor of Qianwu Kingdom, as long as he is at fault. Placing his hands behind his back, Zhong Xian exuded an aura of indubitable confidence. I'll blast a hole through him for you, teacher. Having lost his family, Lu Chong had to learn to be independent swiftly. In the past 2 years, he trusted no one and relied on no one. He chose to shoulder all of his burden alone. But despite his incredible mental fortitude, in the end, he was just a young child. In an instant, all of Lu Chong's pent-up emotions suddenly came bursting forth, and tears started streaming down his face. If it was anyone else who said such words to him, he would have surely laughed it off, thinking that the other party was just bragging. But for some reason, he couldn't help but feel inclined to trust the words of this Liu Laroche. He had lost all of his pillars of support with his death of his parents. He didn't expect to find the feeling of wanting to rely on someone on Liu Laroche. Even though the teacher before him was young, he felt like an indomitable mountain that pulled his floating heart back to the ground, allowing to him to find calmness. For once in a very long time, he felt that he wasn't alone. Go on, speak. Zhong Xian looked at Lu Chong. Yes. Thus, Lu Chong began talking about his history. Chapter 340 Lu Chong's Deep Grudge 2. It wasn't too different from the cliché plots one would see in soap opera. The Lu clan, which Lu Chong was born in, wasn't exactly a prestigious clan in Qianwu Royal City, but still, it was a sizable one. Lu Chong's talent had been average since young. On the other hand, his elder sister was the star of the clan, becoming an apprentice formation master at just 17-year-old. Back then, she was the talk of the town. However, that was also the origin of the disaster. Talented and beautiful, she caught the eye of a certain scion. Love eventually grew into hate, and the story ended in a tragedy. Eventually, our entire family of 137 people was all killed in the span of a night. Back then, I happened to be out hunting and coincidentally avoided the calamity. Recalling the matter, the resentment he sealed in his heart burst forth, and his entire body trembled in agitation. Your clan used to be in Qianwu Royal City? Zhong Xian asked. If his clan wasn't located in Qianwu Royal City, there would be no need for him to act so cautiously here, going to the extent of even playing mute. Yes. Lu Chong nodded. Given my weak cultivation, I knew that I would never be able to escape from the other party's pursuers. Thus, I decided to join Qianwu Academy instead and cooped myself within its compounds. I think that it is likely that the other party didn't think that I would pose much of a threat, that I was able to survive until now. The most dangerous place is always the safest place. Perhaps the other party didn't expect you to hide in the prestigious Qianwu Academy. However, given that a clan of 137 people was killed, there should have been a huge uproar in the city. Didn't the Master Teacher Pavilion and Qianwu Kingdom attempt to investigate the matter and return justice to the Lu clan? Zhong Xian realized that there were some doubtful aspects to the matter. The Master Teacher Pavilion was a powerful organization spread across innumerable nations. Not only was it responsible for grooming master teachers and guiding the populace, it also took on the role of maintaining order in the region. While they typically didn't interfere in fights of minor scale, an entire clan being slaughtered overnight was a huge matter. Given such, the Master Teacher Pavilion should have sent someone to look into the matter. Besides, even if the Master Teacher Pavilion chose not to interfere, How could the royalty of Qianwu Kingdom stay out of the matter as well? How could they allow the murderer to get away scot-free when an entire clan was killed in the capital right beneath their eyes? I am not sure about the details either. After everyone else died, I went undercover. I didn't dare to look into the matter out of fear that the other party would notice my existence. Lu Chong had a savage expression on his face, and deep resentment burned in his eyes. Zhong Xian continued asking a few more questions, but after realizing that Lu Chong didn't know much about the matter as well, he stopped. There's no need to bother all these first, just focus on your training for the time being. Use the method I taught you yesterday to cultivate. As long as you persevere on for 5 more times, you should attain the strength to kill Tongxian Realm Pinnacle experts easily. You should rest well for now and prepare for the second round tonight. Yes. Lu Chong clasped his fist before returning back to his dormitory. Even though Lu Chong had worded it lightly, Zhong Xian knew that the matter wasn't as easy as it sounded. Given how the royalty of Qianwu Kingdom stood idle when an entire clan was killed, his opponent must either possess immense strength or be of high standing. More importantly, if it was only a matter of love turning into the hate, the other party could have just killed his sister. Was there a need to wipe out the entire clan? There was probably something deeper to it. It seemed like his student was still hiding several matters from him. I shouldn't pressure him if he doesn't wish to say it. I will ask him when he's willing to talk about it. Shaking his head, Zhong Xian decided not to dwell on the matter. Even though he had decided to help the other party, their time together was still too short. It was normal for Lu Chong to not have absolute trust in him. Thus, Zhong Xian wasn't angry. In the book compiled on Lu Chong in the Library of Heaven's Path, it was only reflected that Lu Chong carried a deep grudge against him. It didn't state who his enemy was, and what exactly happened back then. It was just like the case with Zhao Ya and Mu Xueqing. He could tell that the duo was injured, as well as how they were injured, but he wasn't able to tell who was the one who did it. Walking out of the classroom, Lu Chong turned around and glanced at the young Liu Laroche. His eyes reddened, and he tightened his fist. It wasn't that he didn't trust Liu Laroche, but he didn't dare to tell him the truth. He knew very well the standing and influence his enemy wielded. He didn't want the only person in the world who treated him sincerely to be harmed because of him. Liu Laroche, I am indebted to you. It seems like I won't be able to repay you. I really hope that you won't be implicated in this matter. After all, you're just an ordinary teacher in the academy. If they were to realize that you have taken me as your student and imparted me with knowledge, they might lay their hands on you. Allow me to settle my grudge myself. Coming to this decision, Lu Chong turned around and left. The sudden surge in his strength had reignited his hope for exacting vengeance. Not long after Lu Chong's departure, the other students arrived. After imparting them some basic knowledge and giving them pointers on their cultivation one by one, Zhong Xian called Mu Xueqing into the small room and imparted her with the Heaven's Path saber art. Initially, when Mu Xueqing heard that there was only one move, she was slightly disappointed. However, after learning it, she realized that it was an exceedingly profound and high-level skill. Agitated, her body couldn't stop shaking. Even though she was unable to tell the tier of this saber art, she knew that it was at a much higher level than the fallen flower fist that her father imparted her. They weren't even comparable to one another. This saber art seemed to harness the fundamental laws of the universe. Profound concepts were concisely expressed through this single move, making one feel as though it was impossible to withstand it. Thank you, Liu Laroche, for your generous bestowment. After practicing it for 2 hours, Mu Xueqing finally opened up the Zhenqi pathway required for the Heaven's Path saber art. Filled with gratitude and reverence for her teacher, she kneeled onto the floor and kowtowed. The other party had solved her pill poison issue and imparted her with such an incredible battle technique. It was impossible to express her gratitude through words. I must defeat that lady and bring honor to Liu Laoche's name. Gritting her silver teeth, she strengthened her resolve. She had no other way to repay her teacher but to bring glory to him, and defeating master teacher Zhong Xian's student was the most effective way to do so. Oblivious to the fact that this newly accepted student of his had already made up her mind to give Zhao Ya a good thrashing, Zhongxian instructed for the other students to cultivate properly before leaving the classroom. It wasn't easy for him to create the Zhongsha realm heaven's path divine art, but due to lack of spiritual energy, he could only cultivate slowly. Now that he had some free time, he decided to head to the apothecary guild to find some suitable pills with concentrated spiritual energy. Is that Liu Laroche really as incredible as they say? Helping others achieve a breakthrough with just a few casual pointers? Not too far away from Zhongxian's classroom, two young men were discussing. If any other students were here, they would surely recognize the duo to be the two stars of the academy, the champion of the academy's tournament, Zhao Wuxing, and the first runner-up, Liu Changyang. The one who had just spoken was Zhao Wuxing. There must be a reason behind these rumors. It's not like you don't know Mu Xueqing's temper. To be able to make her listen obediently and even fall out with Zhongsha's students, that Liu Laroche must possess exceptional means. Liu Changyang replied. After witnessing the brawl between the two ladies, the duo grew interested in the legendary Liu Laroche. No matter what, we should see for ourselves whether it is real or not. I don't believe that there's any teacher in this academy who can surpass by Laroche in terms of teaching. Even though the Liu Changyan's words were logical, Zhao Wuxing still found it hard to believe the matter. As they lived on the campus, they were unaware of the ruckus that Liu Laroche had caused in the physician guild. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been doubtful of the other party's capability. As for Bai Laroche, he was the most famous star teacher in the academy. His standing was similar to that of Lu Zun in Hongtian Academy. Ahem. Why is the carriage of the royal family here? Just as the two of them were discussing the matter, Liu Changyang abruptly pointed to the road. Tracing the other party's finger, Zhao Wuxing was stunned. A golden carriage was slowly heading toward the academy from the streets. The insignia of the royal family was on the exterior of the carriage. 8 horses. This is the carriage that only the core members of the royal family are entitled to ride on. Is this the crown prince or the third princess? Speaking of the third princess, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyan's eyes immediately burned in passion. Third Princess Mo Yu was the ideal goddess in their mind. Not only was she beautiful, she was blessed with great talents as well. Despite her young age, she had already passed the master teacher examination, causing her name to be known throughout the capital. If not for Zhongxian and Mo Hongyi, she would definitely be the brightest star in the city. Who? The carriage came to a stop and an elegant figure alighted from it. It is indeed the third princess. Upon seeing the figure, the two geniuses immediately flushed in agitation. However, puzzlement soon replaced their agitation. Why would she be at the academy? As a one-star master teacher and an incredible genius, if Princess Mo Yu was planning to conduct a lecture in Tianwu Academy, they would have definitely heard of the news beforehand. But if she wasn't here to conduct a lecture, what other reasons could she be here for? Perplexed, they saw her walking toward Liu Laroche classroom and bowed. Tianwu Kingdom's Mo Yu is here to pay respect to Liu Cheng Laroche. A crisp voice sounded clearly in the surroundings. Pay respect to Liu Laroche? Princess Mo Yu is a one-star master teacher, 2-star apothecary, and 1-star beast tamer. Despite all of these, she still has to pay respect to this Liu Cheng. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang were stunned. They were so shocked by the sight that their lower jaw nearly fell to the floor. In Tianwu Kingdom, Princess Mo Yu's talent was only second to Mo Hongyi and Zhongxian. On top of being a master teacher, she was also a Tongxian realm pinnacle expert. Yet, she came to the academy to pay respect to an ordinary teacher. Surely they were seeing things. Didn't that Liu Cheng just entered the academy yesterday? For a one-star master teacher and the princess of the kingdom to visit him personally, who exactly was he? Before they could recover from their shock, they saw Liu Laroche open the door, walk out, and glance at Princess Mo Yu. What are you doing here? Cough cough, do you need something of me? Putong. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang fell to the ground. A mouthful of blood welled up in their throat. What in the world was with that attitude? Even if you are capable, it is only right for you to bow in greetings to the princess. At the very least, you should at least address her respectfully. To immediately say what are you doing here and do you need something of me upon seeing the princess? Who do you think you are? You aren't even a star teacher, you are just an ordinary teacher in the academy. The other party is a one-star master teacher, but not only is your attitude completely disrespectful, there is even a questioning edge to your voice. Aren't you disregarding the other party a little too much? Infuriated, the duo was thinking about how they should report this matter to the academy to send a strict warning to this conceited fellow so that he would learn to follow the rules of the teacher guild when Princess Mo Yu stepped forward and said, "My father is waiting outside for you. He hopes that Liu Laroche can spare some time for him." Father! His Majesty Mo Tianxue? He hopes that Liu Laroche can spare some time? What in the world is going on? His Majesty is actually paying a visit personally to an ordinary teacher. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Chongyin's eyes were widened to the maximum. At this moment, they really felt as though the world had gone mad. Chapter 341, Spirit Stone. The two geniuses weren't the only ones who were maddened by Zhong Xian's casual and impertinent reaction. Mo Yu's eyebrows were also twitching and she nearly flew into a rage. She already felt indignant for having to come over personally to invite this fellow, and yet, the other party still acted like that. It was as if she meant nothing to him at all. At the first meeting, others would at least greet her politely with paying respect to Princess Mo Yu or "my pleasure to meet you," trying their best to be as gentlemanly as they could be. Yet, the other party immediately came with a "what are you doing here?" as soon as he saw her. "Are we close buddies? If not for my father nagging me, do you think that I'd be here? I've met rude people before, but to think that you would top the list." Breathing heavily in anger, Mo Yu gritted her teeth. Upon recalling her father's instructions, she felt even more dismayed. Even so, knowing the identity of the man before her, she could only suppress her rage. Her father's intentions for demanding for her presence couldn't be any clearer. He wanted the both of them to have some time with one another, and it would be best if there was any spark between them. After all, this would be greatly beneficial to her. The fight for the throne was callous. Even though Mo Hongyi's surname was Mo, he was neither from the main family nor was he a close kin. As a talented individual who was about to become a two-star master teacher, if he truly set his eyes upon the throne, neither the crown prince nor the other princes would be a match for him. Mo Yu, as a fellow master teacher, was the only one who could stand against him. Thus, Emperor Mo Tianxue intended to groom Mo Yu for her to become the empress so as to prevent the royal insignia from falling into the hands of an outsider. And to do so, her husband would play an important role in consolidating her power. In the entire capital, the two most talented individuals other than Mo Hongyi was Master Teacher Zhong Xian and Liu Laroche. Master Teacher Zhong Xian possessed high standing and powerful cultivation. On top of that, he also had the backing of a powerful teacher. Even if some spark were to be ignited between Mo Yu and him, it would be difficult for Mo Yu to keep him in check. But Liu Laroche was different. Mo Tianxue had sent some men to look into his affairs and confirmed that the other party was a true blue Tianwu Kingdom civilian. Due to the lack of talent, he was unable to take the master teacher examination. At the same time, his cultivation was also only at Tongxian realm primary stage, which was considerably weak compared to the geniuses in the city. Normally, this kind of person wouldn't be able to match up to Mo Yu. But no one could have imagined that he would possess divine medical skill which paved his way into becoming the head of the physician guild all of the sudden. Even though physician wasn't a combat occupation, very few were willing to step on their toes. After all, no one could ensure that they wouldn't fall ill. If some kind of relationship were to really sprout between him and Mo Yu's seat on the throne would be further stabilized. At the very least, Mo Hongyi would have to think twice before vying for the top seat. Thus, Mo Yu held back her displeasure and came here personally to invite Liu Laroche over. She thought that the other party would be flattered and overwhelmed by her presence, but in the end, the other party simply disregarded her. She was a princess and a master teacher. What was with this attitude toward her? Gritting her teeth tightly, she harumphed. After bringing up her father, she thought that no matter how arrogant Liu Cheng was, he would at least defer to her father's standing. Yet, the other party simply frowned. "Your father? Why is he looking for me? I still have something to attend to, so I don't have much time." Zhong Xian wasn't too bothered with the emperor of the kingdom. As a potential 2-star master teacher, he had the qualifications to do so as well. However, when Mo Yu heard those words, she flew into a frenzy. Even if you are the guild leader of the physician guild, your physician rank is still limited by your weak cultivation. Without a concrete rank to augment your standing, your position can only be considered to be an honorary one. What rights do you have to act so arrogantly? Don't have much time. How don't you just take the time to die? On the other side, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Chongyang were about to spurt blood as well. The other party being disrespectful to the princess was already sufficient to leave them speechless. To think that he would go as far as to disregard the emperor. Aren't you afraid of incurring Princess Mo Yu's wrath by doing this? Aren't you scared that she would kill you with a single slap? Father has come here specially to meet you. It wouldn't look good if you were to turn him down like that. Gritting her silver teeth, Mo Yu harumphed. Ah. Fine, bring me over. Zhong Xian gestured. He wasn't intentionally trying to anger this proud princess. Rather, the days with her in the Beast Hall and Red Lotus City had made him feel relatively close to her, and thus, he forgot about his identity as Liu Laroche upon seeing her. From the looks of it, it seemed like the mask and fake identity that the master teacher pavilion prepared for the examination was truly impressive. After all, even Mo Yu was unable to find anything amiss about him. Me. Flinging her sleeves, Mo Yu led the way. Seeing the two of them leave, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Chongyang stared at one another in shock. Wasn't this fellow just an ordinary teacher? Why would the emperor pay him a visit personally? Also, why would Princess Mo Yu tolerate him despite being at the peak of her anger? Even Principal Xie didn't wield such prestige. Let's go over and take a look. Unable to hold back their curiosity, the duo hurriedly followed behind them. Parked at the entrance of the academy was a massive carriage. Before Zhong Xian and the others could reach the carriage, the yellow drape veiling the interiors of the carriage parted, and a middle-aged man carrying a majestic disposition walked down. His eyes were filled with energy and his aura felt imposing as if a mighty dragon. Even from a distance, Zhong Xian could already feel a strong pressure from him. The middle-aged man was a Zongsha realm pinnacle expert, an existence who was just a step away from reaching half Zhizuan. You must be guild leader Liu. Mo Tianxue walked up to Zhong Xian with a smile. As he proceeded forward, he examined the other party carefully. A moment later, a commendatory gleam flashed across his eyes. As the emperor of a country, he naturally carried a disposition which exerted immense pressure on others. Even if an expert of the same cultivation realm were to face him, the other party wouldn't be able to avoid feeling intimidated and anxious. As expected of the person who solved 19 questions on the Wall of Dilemma. Despite his young age, the other party was extremely composed. Just his mental fortitude in itself was something incomparable by most. May I know the reason behind His Majesty's visit? Zhong Xian asked doubtfully. Liu Laroche has solved 19 questions of the Wall of Dilemma consecutively, thus becoming a legend in the kingdom. I happened to pass by here today, and out of admiration for you, I would like to invite you to the royal palace. Mo Tianxue said. Royal palace? Zhong Xian shook his head. I appreciate your goodwill, but I have some affairs to attend to at the Apothecary Guild today. Thus, I will have to turn down your offer. Zhong Xian still had to look for pills containing spiritual energy at the Apothecary Guild before heading to the residence to impart Zhao Ya the Heaven's Path sword art. He truly didn't have the time to be visiting the royal palace at the moment. He rejected the emperor's invitation. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Chongyang had been following behind Zhong Xian and Mo Yu stealthily, and as soon as they caught up, they immediately heard those words and shuddered in fear. Liu Laroche sure was daring. It was bad enough to be disrespectful to Princess Mo Yu, but to reject the emperor's invitation to his face. Since guild leader Liu has something up, I won't impose on you then. Here is a token of my sincerity, please accept it. Despite the other party rejecting his goodwill, Mo Tianxue didn't fly into a rage. Instead, he simply gestured with a smile, and a eunuch quickly walked forward to present a jade box over. As the head of the physician guild, the other party was worthy to be considered as a fellow peer. Mo Tianxue waved his hand, and the eunuch opened the jade box. Concentrated spiritual energy immediately gushed out from within, stimulating one's blood. A transparent rock of the size of a walnut was placed neatly within the jade box. Reflecting the rays of the sun, it was as brilliant as a diamond. Spirit stone? It's a spirit stone. Upon seeing the object, Zhao Wuxing and Liu Chongyan's body trembled. At the same time, a flame ignited in their eyes. Spirit stone was an ore mined from regions where spiritual energy was dense, and it was a commodity rarely seen even in conferred kingdoms. Every single one of them was incomparably valuable and rare, and it was an unparalleled treasure in boosting a cultivator's cultivation. According to the rumors, only higher-tiered kingdoms possessed the right to trade spirit stones, but even so, the demand still severely outstripped the supply. Even a 2-star master teacher would find it hard to obtain one. To think that the emperor would give such a valuable object to this Liu Laroche, this gift was simply too big. If they were in his place, they would have immediately become so agitated that they might even forget their own names. They hurriedly turned to look at Liu Laroche, and he still had the same impassive expression on, as though he was unmoved by the other party's gift. No wonder. Just Liu Laoche's ability to maintain his composure in such a situation itself makes him already worthy of respect. Upon seeing this sight, the duo suddenly found themselves in awe of Liu Laroche. That was a spirit stone. There was no cultivator whose breathing wouldn't hasten upon seeing it. Just by how Liu Laroche could remain calm before it already made him worthy of the emperor's respect. Just as they were lamenting the innate difference among fellow humans, they heard the young teacher ask with a doubtful tone, "What's this?" Putong. The duo's vision darkened, and they suddenly found themselves on the verge of tears. To think that they felt deep respect for Liu Laroche when the truth was that he didn't even recognize what it was. They had wasted their respect on him. Cough cough. The proud Mo Tianxue, who was looking at Zhong Xian expectantly in hopes of seeing the shock on the other party's face, choked on his saliva. He was rendered completely speechless by the other party. Even if you haven't seen a spirit stone before, you should have at least heard of it. Despite being so skilled in the way of medicine, how could you have never heard of spirit stones before? Zhong Xian had read many books in the master-teacher pavilion, but he had yet to assimilate the content of these books for his own. As such, he was still lacking in the common knowledge in the world. The Library of Heaven's Path was similar to the search engines in his previous life. While one could easily search for answers on it, one had to know what to search for first. Otherwise, it would be useless. That was to say, even though he could easily access the books in the Library of Heaven's Path, he didn't have perfect grasp over the knowledge contained within them yet. The current situation was as such. A brilliant and extraordinary-looking stone was before him, but there were countless other stones in the world as well. How was he supposed to find this single stone among innumerable others among countless books? This is a spirit stone. It contains concentrated spiritual energy within it, allowing to cultivate efficiently. Mo Tianxue explained. Spirit stone? Upon hearing the name, Zhong Xian immediately submerged his consciousness into the Library of Heaven's Path and a book instantaneously appeared before him. He quickly browsed through it. A detailed description on the subject was written within the book. Spirit stones are ores formed from a dense congregation of spiritual energy, and they contain a concentrated volume of spiritual energy within it. The spiritual energy within it could be absorbed by a cultivator to increase the efficiency of his cultivation, thus solving the problem of limited spiritual energy in his environment. This. Blinking his eyes in astonishment, Zhong Xian's face gradually reddened in agitation. Wasn't this what he was looking for? With this, he wouldn't have to head to the apothecary guild anymore. He could just absorb the spiritual energy within the stone to reach Zongsha realm pinnacle. Thank you. Knowing how valuable this object was, Zhong Xian hurriedly grabbed the spirit stone and kept it in his storage ring without even waiting for the other party to finish his explanation. It was just a moment that he was nonchalant to the spirit stone, but in the next instant, he swiftly snatched it away, as though afraid that someone would take it away from him. Mo Tianxue and Mo Yu immediately flew into a frenzy. The heck, your attitude is even more fickle than the weather. Just as they were thinking that the other party was suffering from dissociative personality disorder, They saw the young man placing his hands behind his back and looking into the distance with a deep look, as though an expert who had seen through the vicissitudes of life. I won't take your item for free. How about this? I can conduct a free treatment for you. Mo Tianxue and Mo Yu. Zhao Wuxing and Liu Changyang. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.